But I when I'm out, like doing, I put it in my cargo pants because it's just like an easy.
Yeah.
And then I have a vest and I can put some other things in. It's like fishing tackle.
Tijuana River Valley.
Happy Wednesday, man. Why are we doing this on Wednesday?
Yeah, dude, I'm gonna be honest with you. Every station is pretty much the board. And then maybe like San Marcos. Yeah.
I'll send you the rest of this conversation. Pretty far, yeah.
Yeah, you did. You told me that. Whatever they send me. Here, it's easy.
I think they had one guy from 130. So, to the van, he once he gets into the players, yeah, he only has one game. I mean, Grove has big.
You just transferred somewhere, right? Did you just transfer somewhere?
No, I'm not power.
Oh, I thought you were trying to go to...
Oh yeah, no, I am. But it is March. Don't say like this. Don't they come March? March is next year. No, I would say maybe. I had dropped from that.
No, you said
They told me I'll be here for at least a year. Yeah, it's probably going to be a
2 more years.
That was a year and a half at the, no, probably a year and a half.
Year and a half.
This will give you the scoop on what's coming up before the board. Each agenda item includes a brief description of the issue, the recommendations, and potential impacts. If you need more detail, check out the detailed reports online. Those are called board voters. Then decide if you want to celebrate Tuesday's general legislative session or Wednesday's land use session. You'll have 3 opportunities to have your say. Let's start with non-agenda public comment. This is your chance to talk about things that aren't on the agenda, but try and keep your topic related to county government. For non-agenda public comments, you can speak at either the Tuesday or Wednesday session, but not both. So pick your day for you. And keep in mind, the board can't act on the spot. They'll refer your comments to the Chief Administrative Officer, who will look into the issue. Last thing, the board will hear from the first 10 speakers, 5 in person and 5 by phone at the beginning of the session. Then all the remaining speakers will get their chance to speak after the discussion items. During the consent agenda, the board handles a bunch of routine items. If you want to comment on an item, listen. For example, I'm John Doe, speaking on item 5, and I agree with approving the contract. Discussion items are the main event where the board debates before making a decision.
Yeah.
Supervisor Anderson.
Here.
Supervisor Desmond.
Here.
Chair Vice President Geary.
Here.
Vice Chair Montgomery Scott.
Here.
Chair Vice President.
Here. Okay. Discussion item 17, which is continued, tabled yesterday. So hopefully now that everyone's had a good night's sleep, we can move efficiently through this item. Stuart, is there anything you want to say a couple words
simplify the discussion on this item this morning. Board Policy A74, which is 18 pages long, lays out the rules for county boards, commissions, and committees. But this policy does not provide rules on how committees or subcommittees, meetings, or any other destiny that don't meet the Brown Act, how they're conducted. And I want to simply bring more transparency to these meetings. And I'm recommending the board adopt simple steps that should be taken for ad hoc subcommittees or any committee that we deem that doesn't fall under the current Brown Act rules. And this only addresses the transparency that in how the public would access it. Having said that, I see that we have an updated sheet. Perhaps we'll put this on the screen, and I'd like to make a motion in support of this that has been updated. Essentially, it's everything I proposed yesterday except for item B. But the issues that I had concerning item B are covered in item C, which say that it requires all subcommittee meetings to include presentations to the subcommittee to be streamed live, recorded, and posted so the public can view them in real time and following the meeting. So I'm good with this language, and I'm respectfully requesting a second.
I'm happy to second. And I just want to say, I think, and let me just put it like, say, my intent here, I think I'm really convinced by the argument that, you know, for having speakers come in, presentations being made, a lot of like good analysis, that should be recorded for posterity, it should be available for the public. I think the only flag I would note, and I'm sure we'll be able to address this with whatever kind of comes back, so we don't need to kind of get in the weeds now. I just want to make sure we don't like over-define subcommittee meetings so that anytime two supervisors talk, all of a sudden we have to have an agendized meeting. So I think that was my only concern, but that seems unlikely. So I know that wasn't your intent, but as long as we're really just focused on kind of these, making sure that all the good work we're doing is available for the public to be able to have an opinion on, I think that makes sense. Any other comments? Supervisor Dustin?
Thank you. I appreciate the clarity and brevity of the amendment. So I'm going to muddy. I'd like to also have item K to remove ad hoc subcommittee's authority for purchasing and contracting.
I'm fine with that. Are you saying that without board approval?
Yes.
Board approval?
Yes.
Where's that?
So they'd have to come back.
You
Well,
want
just
to-
K. I didn't put it out. I just remove ad hoc subcommittee's authority for purchasing.
I mean, this is where, so Supervisor Dustin, this is where we're getting into why I was trying to yesterday do like a broader conversation, because I do think there's a lot of value to talking about that. Like, what are the authorities of these committees? What's authority of an ad hoc? What's the authority of a committee? When does it get delegated? I think that's a very important conversation for us to have. But if we're not going to talk about all those pieces, if we're really just focused on transparency, I'm not comfortable with kind of having that, like tacking that on to a transparency measure. I'm kind of like either let's do the whole enchilada, or let's just focus on what's not transparency. It's a different topic. We're talking about, this proposal is about transparency of the ad hoc subcommittees. It's not about authority.
And I'll change this to notify the board of any ad hoc subcommittees purchasing or contracting activities. So we'd be notified, so there's your transparency. So that the board is notified of any ad hoc subcommittees
I don't purchase it tonight. I think it's tonight.
and I.
Make available to the
Yeah,
public,
it
subcommittee
is.
consult information.
Available to the public subcommittee. Make available to the public, subcommittees consulting and
It's broader than what you asked for. It's for the public.
that's for the public. I'd like the board to be notified anytime any ad hoc subcommittee does anything with purchasing. So make the public and the board?
Sure. Make the public, okay.
I'm good with that.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion second, any other thoughts? Okay, please vote. We need it.
Chair Lawson, Reamer, that motion passes unanimously. Alternate Vice Chair Denise Preston on the motion.
Okay, moving on to 18, Supervisor Nixon, you're on a roll.
This should be a simple item. By the way, I love that my staff scripted that for me.
They wrote it, this could be a simple item.
Well, I just find it humorous. I've heard from several of my constituents who raised concerns with the use of taxpayer funds by county leaders to hire a private firm conducting poll activities. Look, the bottom line, I'm not going to go through all this, the bottom line is when we're doing third-party polling, where we're hiring contractors to poll, I like to add guidelines to that. And it's essentially 3 simple items. Let me pull up my record here. And this is going to develop strategy and process governing the use of county funds for polling and related activities. The second thing it would do is it would go to county council review how we address it. So in the legislature, it's very defined on what you can poll and what you cannot poll. We have no structure like that here. So when you're using a third-party vendor, while we may know the rules, they may not understand the rules of proper use of public funds. So this would instruct county council to come back with some rules of engagement. This would not be applicable to our offices sending out an email saying, would you like to have a park or would you rather have a pothole filled? So it would not, it would only be engaged if you're using a third party or contracted poll. And the purpose of all this is simply to add checks and balances to make sure that nobody inadvertently misuses public funds with a push-pull looking to create answers. Instead, it's actually used to poll our constituents on what they wish and not wish. So I don't think it's any great shakes. All I'm doing is trying to align our policy with what state law requires.
Do you want to make a motion? Do you want to make a public?
Oh, no, thank you very much. I would like to make a motion, and I respectfully ask for a second.
Okay. I just noting, I'm going to go to public comment. I say I would have a second. I have only 2 minor concerns. One was it wasn't clear to me that it was only third party. It didn't say it enough times. It just said polling. So we could insert third party in there because I was a little worried about you send me over your list and you say you want X, you want Y. We don't need all this structure. It's really the third party.
That's why in my presentation, I try to be very clear.
But if we could just make
When
sure.
I read it after, I had the same concern.
Okay, so maybe we could, I guess I would say if we could amend it to just add the word third party. And then the second thing I would say is, when we did the surveys, the community surveys, the lab, I've done 3 of them. And it's been enormously helpful to be able to get kind of like a statistical understanding of it. I really want these guidelines. And I want to make sure they apply to what we're doing. So if we could add community survey or polling, just so that I make sure that we don't end up in some situation where it doesn't you don't get all these guidelines and the support, because I think it's a great idea. I just want to make sure that it applies kind of broadly. If someone calls it a community survey, someone calls it polling, it doesn't matter. These are the guidelines that apply.
I think the tipping point is if you're doing it from your office and you're asking your constituents because there's a unique item in a specific community, that would not fall under this. But if you're going to the extent of hiring a polling firm, whether it's a survey or a poll, they're So I tried to keep the focus not on the need, but on the fact that it's a third party, there's a contract, you're paying for the board, it's not controlled.
I think that we're saying, I think we're saying the same thing, I'm just saying, I don't wanna be in a situation where someone said, where it's not clear that these guidelines apply, because,
That's right.
yeah, I just would like to
So
say,
you're saying, and, your house called it,
horrible, and so that it's clear, however you call it, the third-party contract is with us, basically.
well, that's something to help with the new name, but I think the key is the.
The third-party contract can be community survey pool or anything else similar.
Fine.
Okay, those are my two things, that was all I was worried about, but anyway, let's go to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lawson. We have 5 requests to speak on this item, 1 in person and 4 requesting to speak by phone. Also note for the record that we received 1 e-comment in support. For any individuals that requested to speak on item 18, for this session by phone, please dial in the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll start with an in-person speaker. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board. Welcome, Melissa Leal.
All right. Welcome, Andrew. I have a hard time believing you guys really want to hear what the public have to say, because people will fill this room and tell you, say they don't want like a solar field in their community like Kakamba, and it gets passed anyway. So when you talk about unbiased and opinion, and what the public wants, these are all nice words, but I feel like you're gaslighting the people when you say that, because you don't even care if the elections are legit. Like, Justin was fired for talking about making sure that we have free and fair elections. We won't look at that, but we'll go ahead and try and make sure that the public opinion and the polling is, good. And then you're with voter fraud, they go to homeless camps and or to people that are undocumented and have them sign up. So, I'm just wondering, first of all, how much is this going to cost? And are you doing it online? Are you going out into the community? Like, are you really going to listen to what the people want? Because you guys are good at telling people one thing and doing the complete opposite. And it's sad because the people, and if we did, sure as heck wouldn't look like it does. The people would actually spend the money where it needs to go, and not like things like pretending to save the planet, doing environmental reviews, all your behavioral health stuff. Make it, changing children's behaviors, right, when they're being ripped apart from their families, because that's, things that we need to focus on. But who cares if people want that or not? Maybe you should ask that people. I would do that. Ask people if they think that you guys should rip families apart and then sell their kids. I think you'd get a good, honest poll there.
You will now hear 3 individuals that requested to speak by phone. We'll start with our first caller.
Okay, Gonzalo here. So, item 18, establishing a process for conducting county polling activities. Here we go. Okay. It's cute what happens here, right? Yeah. Now you want to establish a process, you want to act like you're trying to keep unethical or illegal activity down, but in reality, this is far from ethical or humane. Like it or not, the truth is this is all designed to further enable and perpetuate a system that survives on ignorance, confusion, and despair. A system that depends on willful ignorance. So please be transparent. Please do that system. Homeless families, wars, pedophilia, mass genocide, human trafficking, child trafficking, big pharma mafia, all of it. All of it moving straight to the slaughterhouse. The game continues. You do work for the people, and once the so-called tax cattle realize who the people truly are, the game changes. But until then, the illusion of government stays afloat. We are not the people. We are living beings. You all are the people, and you work for yourself. You work for the system. You work for the globalists, not for the ones paying for it all. Done.
Thank you. We'll hear from the next caller.
It's true. So let me understand. Joel had his staff work really hard, I assume, to do a full write-up, and then he threw it away into the trash can. Got it. Okay, I think that was everything we need to know. Maybe you should have read the script. They cost their tax dollars to write, because I don't think it was made clear what exactly the issue is. Was every poll activity third party before? Was it a performance issue? Was it a cost issue? I'm just kidding, it was more less wasted tax dollars. Definitely wasn't a cost issue. So, here's, again, let's talk about trust, because I think that's the real issue. I do not trust inexperienced, already quit on the city of Compton, Damon Brown to make a sound legal judgment of any strategy for any county poll, let alone what the board should have for lunch. He's already proven himself incompetent. 2, I will address this further in item 19, but I also don't trust the county with the personally seen and experienced firsthand personal data being publicly released by county idiots. 3, as of late, we've seen nothing but backroom deals on county contracts, particularly by tariffs. Where's the assurance that won't happen again for the millionth time? None, right? This agenda item can't even ensure that the polls will be conducted online as well as in person in order to ensure access to the rural communities of the county. Let alone that people can actually find the polls on the maze of the county website. So the fact that there's even an agenda item about something as basic as polling, which so many city governments easily do without a really long, boring discussion, just shows the low level this government is operating at, rock bottom for us. And that's exactly what I expect from people who fund their campaigns through secret accounts. And for the record, Manuel, I knew what Jim was referring to yesterday. We all did. Maybe you should pay attention during meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Hear from the next caller.
Hey, Joel. I'll go ahead and give you credit, even though last person wanted to criticize you for not reading exactly what your staff wrote. It just shows me that you actually want this to take place. You were expecting it to fail as much as I was because of the majority. But I think enough pressure was put onto them, basically me telling them how they were going to vote on it, that they had to reroute this, or is this possibly I'll give you full power over the county by allowing you to go through the 14, Agenda 14, as long as you go ahead and apply these 2 rules? Is that what we're talking about? Because we can clearly see that elections influence the way that the union handled the problem regarding term limits. As a matter of fact, when they had an issue with term limits, they had an issue with supervisors. So now suddenly when we have faulty elections, they want to give you full power. That's telling right there, Damon. Do you understand that? I understand that they brought you in to go ahead and make sure that our elections are secure, right? You beat Trump on the NBRA data. The same data that they fed had nothing to do with third-party fraud, but put a protective layer directly over it. Am I wrong? No, I'm absolutely right. In 2010, we did the online registration, moving all that power to the Secretary of State. They go ahead and vet the registration cards that come from that location, and the local representatives have no choice but to accept them. Now, if the fraud is coming from there, is there any possible way that San Diego...
Thank you. We'll hear from the final caller.
All alone,
if you really want to be transparent with the public and keep unethical or illegal polling activity down, why wait 30 days after the poll to publish the contract and scope polling questions? Especially the results. I know some people who can hardly wait after perhaps thinking and all that, they use it to want to send out board letters supporting this or that without actually giving solid evidence that the county supports the idea. This is a great start to promoting transparency in knowing who supports all of the stuff that goes around here. The county likes to boast about its transparency, but its actual record behind the scenes is dismal, like not releasing public records, or even cleaning them up. Or, for instance, yesterday's discussion about that stupid board that charter recommendations, that you introduced so many amendments that, you know, the public couldn't follow it, the public wasn't prepared to address them. I mean, it's really an unfair process. So, I mean, how dare you talk about transparency and you don't act transparent at all? So, you know, you're hypocritical people. And I use that term advisedly.
Thank you, Chair Losser-Freeman. That concludes public comment this time.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion on the floor, and a second with the. So I just have a few more questions. I know we already discussed that this wouldn't apply to surveys, but I just want to put that on the record very clearly because usually when I have town halls or, you know, Zoom meetings with my constituents, we usually do quick, short, informal surveys on their thoughts on specific issues that are impacting our district. So I just want to be clear that this would only apply when using a polling firm. Is that correct? I mean, right, that's what we, a third party, some kind of third party vendor. Okay, because the board letter also refers to use of county funds. Does that constitute general funds or our district budget?
Well, if it's in a contract with a consultant to do your polling, we're adding transparency to that.
Regardless of where the funds come from. If it's
Correct.
stated county funds.
Right.
The other question I have. The board letter states there's no fiscal impact today, but acknowledges there may be future fiscal impact for staff. What do you expect the types of new costs we should anticipate around this? Says it's going to involve legal review hours, consultant delays, administrative work.
Supervisor, I think it will be determined as to what the actual implementation cost would be, but I imagine that you're right, there will be some review, and then as well, in terms of posting the materials, how we're gonna move forward with that as well.
But you don't have an approximate.
I don't.
So we would be voting without knowing how much it's
It has to come back, it will be it's a vote to have county council come back, so you could add, a friendly amendment to when it comes back with the full, like, policy proposal, to have a cost.
I'd like a full fiscal analysis. Thank you.
Is that something that's?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's a nominal cost. We're talking about a few hours of staff time. We're not talking about overtime to do this. We post that to our website all the time. And we've never asked for a fiscal review and how much it costs to post to the website. So I think it's a good exercise.
I think it's a good exercise, and I'm full support of transparency. It took me almost a year to get like legal review of a few questions that I wanted to ask my constituents when we got redistricted, and I had 49% of people, and I wanted to know what their most important priorities were, and I wanted to do it in a scientifically accurate way where it was a representative sample. And I come, obviously, as you all know, my job basically for 10 years was doing social science research, right? So I find it very important to make sure that when we're asking questions that we're not undersampling for people who might be too shy to come to a board meeting or might not be on my email list. I know certain people might unsubscribe from my email list. I want to make sure that I'm getting their voice too. So I think that these kinds of surveys are really important ways of getting community feedback on big initiatives. I think they're really useful to make sure that we're going kind of in a direction that makes sense to the broad base. We talk about community feedback all the time, and I think it's just really important to acknowledge that different people are going to show up in different spaces, and different kinds of community feedback are helpful in different ways. And if I was only relying on folks that could turn out for a town hall, because I have a lot of town halls, there might be like a lot of folks that aren't able-bodied, for example, or don't have childcare, who wouldn't be able to turn up to those events. Or someone wasn't on my email list, or they didn't have access to those kinds of technologies. So I really like the whole idea of us being kind of more scientifically rigorous and having more representative samples, and making sure that when we do community surveys, that we're really trying to make sure that is representative of the community as a whole. So that's obviously not for everything. I completely agree. There's lots of times we just send out an informal survey, but having a better set of standards as how we can do this as a county, I think will really strengthen our ability kind of collectively to represent our constituents. So that's why I think this is so important. So that being said, there's a motion on the floor and a second. Do you feel like you need any formal red lines, or was it pretty darn clear from the conversation what the intent was? That we want it has to apply to community surveys, polling, whatever you call it, and also it's only for when you hire the third party firm. It's not like these just our own staff sending stuff out or informally. Yeah, I think we have a good sense of the board. Okay. Thank you. Please call the vote.
Chair Lawson Reamer, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
Oh my gosh, Supervisor Anderson, you've been putting your staff to work. Item 19.
Thank you very much. When county staff, we're required to provide responses in the responsive record in a certain amount of time, 10 days for the initial response. However, meeting these requirements can be challenging as we continue to see substantial increases in the number of public records requests we receive. In recent years, we've implemented a new tool called Next Request, which is an online portal that helps track public records requests, Public Records Act requests, and ensures timely responses. We've had an opportunity to use this technology to reduce the time it takes staff to search for responsive documents and ensure that all county departments and offices are consistent in the way they handle Public Record Act document searches. I'm recommending that the CAO work with the clerk of the board and the county technology office, county council, and other departments to update our current response process to provide this level of efficient consistency. I understand this when I served there. Our computer department actually did all searches of our emails and our phones, access to phone numbers. They would come back to our office and ask us if we'd like to redact it. Right now, the chicken hawks, us, are looking for our own documents to give to the public. I want to have third party look through our documents and ensure that that we are as clean as a whistle, and that we're handing over all the documents that make sense. So I'm really looking to I know in our office alone, in the first 2 years, I think we had 6. We, in the first 2 months, exceeded 32 requests. So literally, a full-time staffer is fulfilling these requests. I'm sure your offices are doing the same. There are better ways of doing this. This is a great application of AI. We've already seen with the portal Clark has put together with Next Request the success. I think that you've already tracked 12,000 records requests. So I mean, just in the short time that we've had it, we've become way more efficient and way more accurate. So that's what I'm asking today is that have staff come back with some choices on how to improve the system and take it out of our hands. I'm respectfully requesting a second on this motion.
Let's go to public comments and request anyone to speak.
Thank you, Chair Losberry. We have 7 requests to speak on the 7 in opposition and 1 neutral. 19 by phone, please dial in the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. Begin with our in-person speaker. We have about 2 minutes to address the board. Pledge of allegiance.
Chicken hawks, you always have a lot of good, clean as a whistle, right? Yeah, you guys are funny with your little terms that you use. So AI is going to be utilized here, correct? And I'm wondering, with the AI program or technology that you have, is it solely for you guys, or is it some kind of, service that's provided to the government? Because this is also a way for, BlackRock and Vanguard to get information. It doesn't have to be a cyber attack. But just the way you guys do this, you keep changing the way you do records, and I'm wondering if the information or the technology office is the best to utilize. I just recently put in a request and I was asked what departments to find that information from. How would I know that? Why would that be something I know? But okay. And I feel like if you guys keep changing this, eventually it's just going to go into the hands of AI, and AI actually hallucinates and is can potentially be dangerous with providing information, and it can also be programmed to say hide information. So, who's programming this program? Because it does whatever it's told to do. So I'm just wondering if, somebody asked for something, would it have the ability to hide that information and say it's not available, or who knows what. But yeah, it's funny when you ask for stuff and then you're asked to refine your search when your research is already refined. I'm concerned that when we put things into AI, if it's only collecting data, sure, but if it's what we're interacting with, I feel like that's kind of, not good. I think we should still be able to speak to somebody about it and have communication with a human.
I see Andrea Ebbing is here in person. Andrea, like to provide
I'm Andrea Ebbing, and I'm just asking that if we do this process, if we could please have a search that's not just for the title. So currently on Next Request in the city, I use that one a whole lot. Actually, I use the county one a lot, but I use the city one a ton. And you can't look up documents by title. Titles are often just numeric, alphanumeric codes or whatever. So you kind of have to dig through. It's very difficult. It might be on purpose, I don't know. But if we can have a place to search for topic, content, and then another thing I had in mind is using interns. I think this is a perfect, I'm actually kind of surprised that you guys have to handle your own public records requests. I thought it would be an intern's job. So maybe interns before AI. That's a really good way to get them started, and they can kind of see the content. I think that's a good thing for them. And then, yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the individuals that requested to speak by phone. We'll start with our first caller.
Hey, sure. So, there's a lot of third parties going on. Pat, in independent is a better term in this case, right up until I heard AI, because that's somebody's system. But thanks, Joe, for letting us know how truly corrupt this board is, that you got your own staff doing the PRA merge, getting the actual records and redacting it or not. It's like, no wonder I found a lot of censorship more than there should mistakes. I got other concerns. I've been very concerned on what I've been finding in the PRA countless areas of them. Not just obvious corruption of the board, but the unethical actions taken, who I thought were staff, but since it's not staff, I thought it was like county clerk staff, but it's actually your guys' staff, releasing people's personal information of people who provide comment or initiate PRA. So, for example, I found that in June 2024, county staff sent Dorothy's video as part of her comment for a meeting up the chain for personal viewing before she delivered that comment at the meeting. I found that in PRA number 24-3105, and I actually just found who this was. So Steve Lujan, Elisa Cobian, Kathleen Flannery, Jennifer Effie. They were sending it between themselves. County staff have released Paul Hankins' zip code, area of residence, and a summary of what he supports and opposes. This data should have obviously been redacted, and it wasn't. It was very disturbing. County staff have also fought me on public records requests, denying information that must exist, such as checks, even though it's illegal to delete those public records. Then when I request a text from one day before, they always say none exist. That's a bunch of BS, and your staff knows it, and they know exactly what they're doing. I've also had staff include my why six very.
Thank you. Now here for the next call.
Man, it's interesting all the shit that is happening. I understand that you want to be the auditor, Joel, and that's why you went ahead and wrote these things, which makes it very interesting. Meaning, you see the writing on the wall. You're not planning on taking another 4 years, but you want to go ahead and audit. You're acting like you want your support the people, but I know, based off of your conversations at the Board of Supervisors meeting, that you protected Michael Vu when it came to me. 100%. You refuse to go ahead and have one single conversation on me, but yet you want to be the one auditing everything. You stand behind the restraining order. First, you stand behind the fact that I was terminated, that you wouldn't talk to me. Then you stood behind a false restraining order because Tara wanted to go ahead and prevent me from ever attending the board meeting, right? I mean, hell, that's why she came up with the rules on that stuff. If you're off topic twice, then she'll make sure that you're kicked out. Unfortunately, she's having a problem trying to figure out how I'm off topic because always I've been on topic. You guys are just showing me in today's meeting and yesterday's meeting how far I am right. That the ballots coming to the registration cards coming from the Secretary of State are probably loaded with fraudulent ballots that get counted. And you guys don't want to do shit about it, including the Republicans.
Okay, you started off all right, but now we veered into territory that has absolutely nothing to do with the item being discussed. This is your first warning. Please stand topic. You can go ahead, sir.
Because of this, and it is on topic. Don't try to pretend it's not because you don't like what I'm saying. You are showing your card. You're digging a bigger trench for yourself. Please stop.
Okay, this time is
Listen to the people and do your job.
So that was your first warning. Next time you're off topic in a comment, there will not be a first and second warning. That constitutes your first warning. So please stay on topic, or else the next time your time will just be cut off.
You will now hear from final caller.
Paula Bold, did I hear that you released my personal information? Anyway, I'm glad I'm still here in the live. From what I've seen, the biggest obstacle to the whole PRA process is government making excuses for why they can't provide or produce the records. Unless you can control that, I don't see how logging in this might help for the public to alert you to things like people living too large or forging invoices or falsified tax returns. Like that Chief Operations Officer at the Harm Reduction Clinic Coalition, you contracted with attorney did. For instance, you wouldn't even redact the record about a contractor who embezzled and committed fraud big time, even though the DA mentioned it in court. So who are you protecting? Not the public, that's for sure. And AI should not be involved in legal matters because you need a person anyway. So it's basically a waste of money. And with all the false arrests and deaths AI has caused, I worry that the county could actually be involved in a protracted litigation. So cost for the AI, cost for the people or interpret it, and then cost for the lawyers to defend yourself in court. It's a total loser, and, as I say, that's the biggie.
Thank you, and Chair Lawson Reed, that concludes the comments this time.
Okay, there was a couple substantive comments around the content of the board item that were actually factually incorrect, so I just want to turn to Supervisor Anderson to correct.
The board letter does not address the AI. The purpose of the board letter is to standardize, create efficiency, and use technology. The end goal is to speed up in the time frame in which we respond to the public and make it more accurate. And we're looking for staff to come back with choices after looking at all the options that are out there.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Turning it to Vice Chair Montgomery Scott.
To discuss these measures in one continuous meeting, but in one meeting nonetheless. It's certainly important for the public to be able to access government records in a timely and transparent manner. My office receives many PRA requests, and we try to respond as quickly as possible given the volume of requests that we receive. And I'm sure that all of you and the other county departments are in the same. The PRA unit in the clerk's office lets us know. My staff member who serves as the PRA coordinator for my office works with the rest of my staff and makes redactions if necessary. If they have questions that go to one of the designated county counsel assigned to assist with all of the PRAs. It then works with the PRA unit in the clerk's office to release the records to requester. So I'm not sure, Supervisor Anderson, how your office currently handles it, how you came up with this new procedure. I do have several concerns about it, and I'll just quickly list them here. I also have a proposed solution at the end of all of this. But here are my concerns. First, I do worry that staff in the technology office will not be able to identify all of the responsive records because they will not have the subject matter knowledge nor the context of each PRA request. They would likely use search terms, but will that catch all of the responsive records? Secondly, I worry that it may also take them a longer time to identify all of the responsive records, which means that the PRA requester will have to wait even longer to receive the responsive records. And then third, I do not know if the technology office has sufficient staff to do this additional work, or if they have the software and capability to look into every department and elected officers' records, including their emails, text messages, and calendar entries. So finally, I worry about any one office having the sole capability of being able to look into every single person's records. As the county government, we are provided with a lot of residents' private information. And with this new proposed PRA procedure, someone in the technology office would have access to all of this information, and there would be no guardrails in place, as far as I can see from the board letter, to protect the potential misuse of private information, intentionally or not, right? So, given all these concerns, I hope my colleague will be open to a friendly amendment. I don't know if it needs the 25 words or less requested yesterday. It's not super long, it is a paragraph, but hey, it's up to you all, since you're the mover and the second. This amendment would direct the CAO to analyze if there's sufficient staffing in the technology office and in the county council's office to take on these additional duties as proposed by Supervisor Anderson. I would also like to know how much the software would cost for the technology office to be able to look through everyone's records, including emails, text messages, and calendar entries. PRA process, so this amendment would direct the CAO to get feedback from all of the PRA coordinators from each department and elected office and find out what works and what doesn't. And this way, we'll be able to figure out other ways to improve the current PRA process. So I think Andrew has my amendment language. If you could place it on the screen, so just I'll read it. So it says direct the chief administrative officer to coordinate with the clerk of the board, county technology office, county council, and other relevant departments to work on establishing a fully standardized and coordinated Public Records Act request review, document compilation, and response process that will apply to all county departments, including elected offices, utilizing the next request system. By 1, collecting feedback from all of the CPRA coordinators about the current PRA process. 2, analyzing if there's sufficient staffing for any new PRA process. And 3, estimating the cost of any new software that may be needed to implement any new PRA process. And then report back to the board within 180 days with recommendations to implement the new process.
I'm not opposed to accepting your amendment. I would just like to ask, do you need 180 days or can you do it in 90?
Supervisor, thank you for the question. I think one of the long poles in the tent may be costing for the software aspect.
Yeah, we can get some rough estimates if a wrong order of magnitude.
So, in 90 days? Okay, I'm happy to accept the amendment and just make it 90 days. Does that work for you?
I just to make sure.
Sure.
To make sure we have give enough time to do
Sure.
the 20.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm very flexible.
That's fine with me.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we, Andrew, did you update the revisions? Great. Please vote.
Chair Lawson, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting.
Okay, thank you very much. We did item 20 yesterday. We're moving on to item 21, receive the citizens law enforcement review board clerk annual report. Is there a second? Okay.
Chair Lawson, members of the board. My name is Brett Klein, and I'm the executive officer of the firm. Today's item focuses on the Citizens Law Enforcement Review Board's annual report for 2025. By way of background, the Citizens Law Enforcement Review Board was established by voters in 1990 as an independent civilian oversight body. Its role is to receive, review, and investigate complaints against police officers and also investigates all deaths that occur in custody. The clerk board is comprised of up to 11 volunteer members appointed by the board is advisory in nature, makes findings on misconduct, and presents policy recommendations. Clerk's mission is to increase public confidence in and accountability of any police officer, custodial officer, employee, or healthcare provider working under the direction of the sheriff's office or probation department by conducting independent investigations. While clerk strives to be as transparent as possible with findings, it is important to note the clerk must also respect all confidentiality laws. In 2025, increased staff prompted a modest reorganization, and we welcomed 6 new board members to the 11-member board, which is now full for the first time during my tenure. This involved an orientation process and implementation of a board member handbook and a board member procedural manual. Additionally, clerk was granted new jurisdiction over healthcare providers in in-custody death, which has provided unique challenges. Clerk is thankful for this board's approval of increased resources that went along with the new jurisdiction. I want to highlight a few of clerk's many accomplishments in 2025. For investigative integrity, there was no missed deadlines. Investigators provided cases to the board quicker than ever before. We created a procedural manual for staff so everyone is on the same page and expectations are laid out. There was no canceled meetings during 2025, and new board members attended trainings, tours, and ride-alongs with the assistance from our sheriff and probation liaisons. And we successfully had in-person presentations from both the sheriff and the probation chief. Community members were able to provide direct comment. For more information on clerk's accomplishments, the annual report is attached on clerk's website. In 2025, clerk closed out 177 cases and opened 158. 2025 started with 138 open cases and ended with 117. We worked death cases to the board sooner again than ever before. Clerk recognizes the importance of the Civil Service Commission and the rights of employees to appeal clerk's board's decisions. As you know, some of our cases are complex, which requires considerable time and preparation. We had multiple civil service hearings during 2025, and many more are expected in 2026. We had staff turnover, which included 4 new special investigators brought in during 2025. But those investigators came in greatly improved our investigations. The caseload in 2023 and 2024 produced the largest caseload in clerk's history. And as you well may know, it takes some time to do these investigations. So those cases came forward in 2025 and expected to continue to come forward in 2026. And most of our sustained findings in 2025 were the result of failing to follow body-worn camera policy. And just an update on our significant long-running projects, such as our just the release in custody death study that was sent out as a press release yesterday morning. In 2025, we had 13 in-custody death cases and 1 death involving a barricaded subject who took his own life. Of the 13 in-custody deaths decided in 2025, 2 were accidental, which are generally overdoses. 3 were by homicide, which meant in that case 2 were other incarcerated persons. And 3 were by suicide, and the remaining 7 were natural deaths. one case, the medical examiner ruled the death a homicide due to lack of insulin. We had 3 discharged firearm cases. The subjects who were shot possessed weapons and repeatedly disobeyed commands. The subjects were treated at hospitals and released. There were 2 use of force protest cases decided in 2025. In both cases, no serious injuries were reported or discovered, and all use of force was deemed actually justified. We did have 36 use of force resulting in great bodily injury cases in 2025. 15 of those cases were summarily dismissed due to the juvenile case file being sealed or the juvenile judge determining that there was no jurisdiction for court. In all the use of force cases decided in 2025, in 2025, CLERB made 5 policy recommendations to the Sheriff's Office, which 3 are still outstanding, but we received 13 responses from the Sheriff's Office on outstanding policy recommendations, most dating back to early 2024 to mid-2024. Of the 13 policy recommendations, 5 were accepted or partially accepted and 8 were not accepted. As a reminder, based upon feedback from last year's presentation, all investigations involving in-custody deaths are attached as an appendix to our annual report, and additionally, all policy recommendations both made and received are attached as an appendix to the report. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Before we do the public comment, are there any questions for my colleagues in the report?
I do have some, but I'll get it.
Thank you, Chair Losmer. We have 7 requests to speak on this item, 2 in person and 5 requesting to speak by phone. Also note for the record that we received 2 comments, 2 of those were neutral. For any individuals that requested to speak on item 21 by phone, please dial in the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. Beginning with the in-person.
I have a real hard time listening to anything Clerk has to say when I was brutally assaulted in the hallway here by Nick Gonzalez in front of a whole lot of people. Anthony Ray was the interim sheriff at the time, sitting over there, rocking back and forth in his chair. It was on video. I have significant injuries still, nearly 4 years later, which is interesting. It's interesting when you're paralyzed and you can walk again, and then all of a sudden you get the shit beaten out of you and you have to kind of go backwards. And it was found that there was no excessive force, but you did, say that he wasn't wearing or using his body-worn camera. Shame on him for doing that. But I have a hard time when it took almost over a year to do this investigation, or about a year rather, and information that I submitted was not used, but information Paul Hankins submitted was. So none of my medical records, none of the video or things like that. And it was just, here he, still works here and tries to tell me you're welcome for beating you up, which is interesting to have a man be proud of slamming a woman's head into the ground, giving there's nerve damage. That's so interesting. What else? Bruising on my foot, even a torn tendon, that's interesting as well. But hey, that's not excessive, right? So anything you say about the test as well, I'm sure is bullshit, because, just go into Las Colinas and see what they're doing to the people. But we can't expose that because you guys are just here to give recommendations, right? It's like, oh, isn't justice great? Oh my gosh, it will fully come when we all go meet our maker.
Next speaker, please.
I'm Andrea Ebbing, and thank you, Clerk, for the presentation. I put it into out to it. It's really unfortunate what happened with Audra. I was completely shocked when I saw what happened to her. And you know, I too am a whistleblower. I think I tend to get a little closer to Mother's Purse. By that I mean Summer Stephan, our DA, who I believe is a mob boss. And so it happened to me too. I was actually beaten almost to death in front of 40 children by Officer Anthony Warner, SDPD, on March 21st, $100,000 warrant from November 4th, 2025, because I was getting my second brain surgery because I survived ruptured aneurysm. I was picked up on that falsified warrant. Getting brain surgery is a good reason to miss a follow-up conference or whatever for a falsified case. But I spent 8 days in Las Colinas, and over those 8 days I had shingles, very active shingles, from the stress, from the torture of this mob boss rehab owner X that the county's contracted $6 million for. So she gets kickbacks from him for Prop 36 defendants, and she wants to protect that, so she wants to kill me. And so when I had shingles, they sent me in anyways, and they denied my antivirals for 8 days. Every single day I was begging them. My blood pressure spiked to like 230 over 120. They wouldn't give me medical care. The women were screaming to get me medical care. I heard their stories. It is so bad. They neglect as part of the punishment. So part of the punishment is to watch people suffer until they're almost dead, and then they just kind of want to die sometimes anyway. And if a girl sees that happen, they send them to something called high power, so nobody can have access to them. They're completely restricted. Thank you.
You will now hear from the individuals that requested to speak by phone. We'll start with the first caller.
Okay, Gonzalo here. Okay, item 21. Wow, that is insane. That is some crazy stuff and insight from Andrea. I mean, whoa. Okay, so this board is supposed to represent civilian oversight of the sheriff's department. So want to be clear about that. It isn't for the people who have no clue about CLRB whatsoever. CLRB can review cases. CLRB can write reports, CLRB can make recommendations. What it cannot do is enforce anything. It cannot discipline, it cannot in any binding way, and that shows. We're talking about recommendations going back to 2005 that still haven't been fully implemented. Yeah, that's like more optional freaking advice. We're seeing continued issues like body-worn cameras violations, flags over multiple reporting periods, with no meaningful shift in behavior. So yeah, what is actually changing? And then there's the delay cases taking months, even years. That's not transparency. Again, that's just, yeah, same old, same old. So we're left with a system that looks like oversight on paper, but in practice depends entirely on the agency it's supposed to oversee to hold itself accountable. Yeah, just another system reviewing itself and calling it accountability. Such bullshit. People need to pay attention. Done.
We'll hear from the next caller.
And just so for the record, I forgot to name Jennifer Effie as another guilty party of sending undelivered public comments up the chain. The PERB just mentioned a death with Is that a coincidence? Because it sounds very familiar to what's in closed session today. However, I read homicide, not suicide in the document. So I'm not a believer in coincidences, so I'm wondering if what we just heard was accurate. But not what PERB found. And so they're giving their perspective. So I don't know about that. That's a little suspicious. But in general, I'm suspicious of her because it's a great example of how anything that's corrupt board of supervisors such as becomes a corrupt entity and capable of achieving anything close to justice. It is yet another entity full of anti-law enforcement extremists rather than non-partisan investigative citizens. No better than the local grand jury obsessed with puns. Nobody qualified as doing investigations, hence the judge's decision. Judges are a major issue on all ends of justice. This board even violates the peace officers' Bill of Rights to further curb because, of course, they're anti-law enforcement too. And particularly, I'm referring to Monica and Manuela for different reasons. Manuela just is a criminal, so it's natural for her. Independent investigations are great, but CERB isn't. This board isn't. The sheriff's office isn't it either. None of that is independent. Hence, every investigation, particularly sheriff, every investigation becomes up clean. And more importantly, every time something damning comes up, they just turn off their video cameras. But I knew, when I first heard of video cameras, the body cams, I knew that was what was going to happen. And sure enough, it is. Your real problem is your county jail system. You need to let the feds come in and clean up your house.
Paul Bowles, thanks for including a link to the report. I see though that someone needs to put more lightly on the keys since the type of story page 114 instead of 14 and 223 instead of 23 in the index. The results are a bit disappointing. I expect there are several cases of excessive force not mentioned. Actual person involved, record submitted like Audra is absolutely gross, and I mean, I don't know why you even have clerks. But remember to look at the Krenning manual. The laws are usually too vague in these cases, but the Krenning manual, they're a lot more specific. It's also disappointing, but not surprising, given the county's record, that clerk is not allowed to investigate juvenile cases. What I mean is the state DA is investigating juvenile cases. Not sure why there are more closed cases than open cases in 2025. It would be nice to have notes explaining these items. While court has issued, I'm surprised that the sheriff still hasn't responded to 2025 recommendations. It looks like the sheriff needs to pay closer attention to things like clear writing letter concern about body-worn cam violations. Maybe in fact,
You and Chair Lost Green, that concludes public comment on this item.
Vice Chair Lisa.
Chair, thank you, Brad. Thank you for the presentation and for all of the work the clerk is doing. You mentioned the caseloads are getting bigger and bigger, right? Getting bigger and bigger. There are more and more people are aware of the clerk and come and utilize the clerk as a place to be heard and hope for change to this one mechanism of an independent body. I do look forward to seeing how clerk evolves with this new jurisdiction over healthcare workers in our county jails, any things within custody there. I was recently reminded that this is the first time in the United States that a civilian board has that type of oversight. So we are trailblazers in that right. So looking forward to seeing, how it helps our processes and allows us to come to conclusions to provide better recommendations. So I will continue to support clerk and advocate for its needs so that it can provide the most effective oversight over our county sheriff's office and the probation department And so, the report is important because we did hear about something that, seems like it could be somewhat of an easy fix, using the body worn camera, as necessary. And also, it is concerning, the process of the probation request. But we are in our, upcoming, committee of juvenile justice, we are working around, court proceedings. A topic of discussion specifically, but generally, we're digging into where those processes can be improved, even though we don't have full jurisdiction at all over the courts. We do have that relationship though. And so we'll be discussing that further and we're looking forward to speaking to the appropriate parties about this process and what it is really doing. Because we have 15 cases of great bodily injury or alleged injury to youth, then we should be utilizing every avenue possible for holding you accountable. So thank you very much for the report, and I know that the recommendation is just simply for us to receive it, and I'm happy to do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion on the floor. Chairman Henry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to begin by recognizing the important work that CLERM and you all do. It's very important. It helps us uphold accountability, transparency, and public confidence in the independent oversight of the Sheriff's Office. I just want to express that at the same time, I'm concerned by what the annual report is telling us regarding juvenile matters and the limitations in because when issues involving young people can't be reviewed as fully and as clearly as it should be, it raises questions about whether our accountability systems are meeting the standard our communities deserve. So I hope to continue to work with probation and with our state partners to better understand these barriers and identify a path forward that ensures meaningful oversight for youth and families. I look forward to continuing to work with CLERM as well, and especially as it grows into this expanded role and as we continue pushing for a system where this county fully upholds the values of accountability and transparency. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Is it a second?
Second.
And a second. Any additional comments? I just want to say thank you for kind of the ongoing work. You all get these complaints and really terrible things are happening in our community, and looking to you to be the kind of watchdog on that, and then toil and work and do it in the shadows, and these things that report back is really important so that there are eyes and that there is a voice for folks who maybe have experienced some kind of really grave injustice at the hands of our criminal justice system. So thank you for that. We have a motion in a second, please vote.
Chair Lawson-Remer, that motion passes unanimously. I'll speak for Vice President Ken Lopez.
Okay, thank you very much. Can we take items 22, 23, and 24 together? Okay, we will take items 22, 23, 24 together. And let's do a show.
Good morning, Chair Lawson-Remer, members of the board. Today, I'll be presenting 3 related items that together implement major portions of Senate Bill 707 or SB 707 as we hear throughout the presentation. These items address inclusive community engagement, updates to the board's rules of procedure, and teleconferencing standards for county boards and commissions. SB 707 made sweeping updates to the Brown Act, and today's presentation summarizes what the county has done to meet those requirements. I'll start with an overview of SB 707, then walk through each of the 3 board letters individually, concluding each section with SB 707, signed in October 2025, modernizes California's public meeting laws. Its goals include expanding access, improving participation, particularly for communities historically underrepresented, and addressing how technology is now used in civic processes. There are three major requirements that affect the county. First, remote two-way public participation must be offered for all regular board meetings. We already do that, and we've been doing that since 2020. Second, local agencies must conduct meaningful outreach to underrepresented communities. And third, the board must adopt policies addressing language access, remote disruptions, and procedures for remote participation by both the public and advisory body members. These three items collectively carry out SB 707. Item 22 implements the required community outreach and proposes strategies to expand participation. Item 23 updates the board's rules and procedures to ensure full compliance. And item 24 is consideration of the first group of advisory bodies to conduct teleconference meetings. Let's start with item 22, promoting inclusive engagement in Board of Supervisors meeting strategies aligned with SB 707. To comply with SB 707, the county conducted extensive outreach to identify barriers faced by residents who do not typically participate in board meetings. This included non-English speaking communities, youth, and community-based organizations. Between February and March of this year, the county engaged with the community-based organizations, or CEOs, to hold 10 multilingual focus groups. The county also engaged with the youth sector focus group, a media outlet focus group, and an online survey that received 107. We saw consistent themes across all sessions. Low awareness of board meetings, difficulty understanding agendas, need for clear participation instructions, desire for stronger language access, and barriers like work schedules, transportation, and the intimidation of participating in a public meeting. But despite these challenges, participants expressed a strong interest in becoming more engaged when information is more accessible. Based on this outreach, staff identified 6 strategies for the board's consideration. First, simplify the agenda into one user-friendly document with hyperlinks. This could be implemented by the meetings in August. That will give staff time to implement the changes in the agenda management system. Second, create plain language guidelines for agenda titles. This could also be implemented by the meetings in August because many board letters have already been drafted and in the review stages, so this will give staff time to adjust any new guidelines. Third, publish step-by-step participation guides in all threshold languages. And this could be done by the end of June. There will be minimal cost for paying a contractor to convert the flyer into all threshold languages. Fourth, produce the public service announcements in multiple languages. This is going to take a little bit longer, about 10 weeks, to dub the video into all threshold languages. And fifth, conduct community workshops through our CDO partners. This could be a 6 to 12 the CEOs to gauge their interest and determine if there's capacity within their existing contracts. And lastly, expand live interpretation services to additional threshold languages. Now, depending on the procurement process, we would strive to get this up and running as soon as possible, but because it would involve implementation of an AI solution, we would engage with the County Technology Office to ensure the system complies with the board's AI policy. Item 22 asks the board to direct the CEO to implement whichever of these strategies the board selects today. Now let's look at item 23, amendments to Board of Supervisors rules and procedures to comply with SB 707 and update public participation provisions. Item 23 proposes updates to the board's rules and procedures to ensure compliance with SB 707, particularly around remote participation, language access, and procedures during technological disruptions. The changes include formalizing remote public comment procedures, requiring an hour-long recess if remote services fail. This is meant to give staff time to address any technical issues. If we can't resolve the remote services, then the board will be required to take a roll call vote to agendas with an annual review for additional languages, accommodating interpretation needs within the chamber, including use of the balcony. And we're also proposing minor updates to align the rules with current technology used for speaker requests and public comment. These reflect actual practices already in place. I'll touch a few of these in more detail. As I mentioned, another major shift with SB 707 is mandating that meeting agendas be translated into any language spoken by 20% or more of the population with limited English proficiency. So for our county, for San Diego, this data shows that 25% of the population speaks Spanish, and 35.6% of that population speak English less than very well. So with that data, this requires the board of supervisors' agendas to be translated into Spanish. We will start publishing the agenda in Spanish for the May 5th and 6th agendas. Another areas for language translation were included in SB 707. One is a public posting place for people to post their own translated agendas. We have a posting box in the south entrance to the County Administration Center for this purpose. I will note that the law does allow the county is not responsible for the accuracy of community translations. Lastly, since earlier this year, we have been providing information in the agenda about utilizing the observation doctrine for interpretation services. Item 23 requests that the board adopt a resolution to amend ensure statutory compliance and reinforce public access. Lastly, let's review item 24, consideration of requests for boards and commissions to conduct teleconference meetings. Item 24 asks the board to consider requests from 7 advisory bodies seeking authorization to conduct remote or hybrid meetings under SB 707. To qualify, the board, commission, or committee must be advisory only, have no final decision-making authority, and not address certain sensitive topics like elections, budgets, or police oversight. At least one and remote members must remain on camera and disclose who is present in the room with them. 7 advisory bodies have requested authorization for the next 6 months, including the Committee for Persons with Disabilities, the Health Services Advisory Board, and several local parks and recreation committees. The request memos have included in the agenda item as attachment 1 that describes how each group can meet the statutory requirements. To approve these requests, the board must find that teleconferencing is appropriate given the circumstances of each body, it enhances public access, it supports recruitment, retention, and diversity of members. SB 707 requires that the board make these findings every 6 months to continue to allow the board or commission to have remote meetings. Item 24 asks the board to consider the requests, approve those that meet the statutory requirement, and direct staff to return every 6 months for review. In summary, SB 707 significantly expands public access and participation requirements. Through outreach, rule updates, and teleconference standards, the county is taking a comprehensive, community-centered approach to compliance. These actions will meaningfully enhance transparency and participation in local government. Chair Wasserman, that concludes the presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions from my colleagues before we go to public comment? Okay, turn to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Wasserman. We have 7 requests to speak on this item, 2 in person, and 5 requesting to speak by phone. Also note for the record, for these 3 items, we received 60 comments for and support and 2 neutral. For any individuals that requested to speak on items 22, 23, and 24 by phone, please dial into the conference line. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board.
You giving us 1 minute usually is you wanting to hear from the people for sure, so I'm glad we do that and we're not trying to fix that. Tara, you crowned me a parliamentarian. Remember that? In the room over across the hall. So I thought, if you want somebody to do a public service announcement or some of the outreach or workshops, Andrew, you were there. She said it, right? She said, I'm good at that and I can teach people how to speak in a minute. So if we're going to keep people at a minute, let's really help them utilize that time wisely. So I feel like, I'll take $3,000 and do a, public service announcement. It would be very good. Do you not agree? Or were you lying to me? Oh my gosh, Tara, I'm even concerned. Were you talking about me when you said you care when people have been, Is it my hair? What is it that I'm not included? I just feel like you guys aren't inclusive when it comes to me. Do you know what I'm saying? Why can't I help you out with this? You said I was good at it, and I just feel like let's see the others. I mean, I have people watching on my live stream right now. A lot of times it's more the people that are watching your live stream. So, you know, if people want to know how to do things, I can tell them. I don't have to educate myself on it. I did it by coming here. But why would we really want to encourage people to come? That way you can just pretend to do outreach and stuff. I mean, because if you really did, you know that I could do it. But I guess you just like to blow smoke. Does that mean I'm not a queen like you? Oh, dang it. It sucks.
Okay, hi, it's Andrea Ebbing. I actually think it's a great idea to have Audra do some outreach because she does reach people that do want to be involved. I think that's actually a good idea. So do keep that in mind. I also think we should, for sure, like it's actually exciting to participate. I have like a lot of grievances and very direct, but I think you all know that I also can reach out to the DOJ and FBI, and I mean not the local ones, those ones just work for Dana Sabra and Summer Stephan, but the ones above them that are watching them not take action on the things they're supposed to do now. So my outreach, I didn't start here. Like I was kind of going to the high ups before, but I just want to say that I like participating. I think a lot of people would. We should take all those billboards that used to have all the Narcan stuff up there and make it exciting to come to these meetings. Like let's promote these meetings. It doesn't have to be doom and gloom. It can be like, let's do something big and make this place awesome again. Well, no, we don't want to do that. We'll figure out our own tagline. But we can do that. And also, like the Family Justice Center, I don't mean this in any racist way whatsoever, that are in Chinese. We don't have Chinese people in my neighborhood. It's all Mexican. It's predominantly Mexican, not even Spanish. That's all it is. Casey Wood started it. Summer Stephan took over. It's going back and forth between the city. And the only thing they do is hand people papers and say, here, call these numbers, go figure it out. They have a food pantry with canned goods in it and clothing. That's a money laundering facility. We don't need billboards in Arabic in Linda Vista. Like, we could use that to promote these meetings and get people here because I think they want to participate. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the individuals. Our first call is Consuelo. Your device might be muted.
Before you start my time, are we given 1 minute for this or 2 minutes?
2 minutes, Consuelo.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, you have 2 minutes to speak, Consuelo.
Yay! Okay, great. Alrighty. So, first off, I want to say, Gonzalo here. The county is, okay, so what you mentioned, Andrew, the county is not responsible for the accuracy or translation of other languages. I mean, then why even allow it at all if there will possibly be misleading information? And regarding the whole disability thing, you don't accommodate people with disabilities. I know one person in particular you have actually cut off during his speech. It's not you, Andrew, but Tara. When in actuality, you should be giving him more time to speak due to his disability. But yeah, he shows up anyway, and I appreciate that. Okay, so, back to the other bullshit. Okay, so, yeah, I'm not someone who, showing up to these meetings for nearly 6 years, isn't inclusive. It seems more like controlled. If there are fewer than 10 speakers, you give the people their 2 minutes, but when there are more than 10 speakers and only like 9 people are in the chambers to speak, you still give them the 1 minute. That's not calendar and expect the the public to compress all their concerns into like into 2 minutes, while like even the freaking city of San Diego at least gives their public a minute per item, up to 3 minutes, let's put it that way. And then your own disclaimer, I already said that about your non-responsibility. You're not responsible.
Thank you. And here's the next call.
Sarah, you're actually so predictably untransparent. I knew you were going to combine 3 items. If it was about surfing, we'd get a full 6 minutes to address, I'm sure. Thanks, Andrew, for the presentation, for revealing one of the bad aspects of SB 707, or at least how the county is conducting it, the outreach to the extremist CV organizations. No two political CBOs having any workshops to become professional paid activists at these meetings. We get enough of that garbage as it is. For example, in terms of fake transparency items yesterday to extend our term limits to become wannabe queens. What a waste of a full hour hearing minions on the dole. You know what we do? We just turn it off at that point. Turn it back on later. Getting to the positive, an HTML version of the meeting agenda is long overdue. Not hiding the sign-up to speak option is long overdue. I would also like to see the sign-up system visually streamlined, because not only is it hard to find, it's way too many steps to sign up to speak. Not hiding the board operator number when the system screws up is long overdue. I support live interpretation services if, where, and how possible. Add close-up video to every supervisor at all times. Several cities already do this for transparency. We need close-ups of Joe and Manuela's triple chins whenever they stare at their phones, which is 99% of every meeting. 99% double or triple chins. Well, Monica and Jim look great. Sarah, dirty issues don't count as washing hair. I don't find it necessary that committees and commissions have remote access, but because the county is so vast, I think it's warranted. I'd like to see a limit on how many times a committee or commission member can participate remotely. Otherwise, accountability may turn into a free-for-all. As far as SB 707 and mostly done correctly, including concealing people's personal information like phone numbers. So why can't you do that for PRAs? Is it because of your information that we have a right to? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not here for this call.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. Ann Riddle here. I have followed the unveiling of SB 707 since its beginning, and I think we were all excited to improve access and participation. I'm not sure what we see today is a good step. Combining the 3 items, I think, works against what SB 707 wanted to have happen. But I do at least appreciate the conversation regarding about outreach to the community. As someone who attends my county planning group, something that's noticeable to me and to my sister who attends another one is the lack of participation by staff. I noticed during COVID when we had call-in, we would hear from staff, although they'd leave the meeting after they'd share. I think it's really important you don't really understand what's going on in the incorporated area. You're very much keyed in on the city of San Diego. I understand that, it's the largest city, but we only have our Board of Supervisors. We don't seem to have a robust committee procedure for things that are coming to us so that we can weigh in the committee like we do, like those who in the city of San Diego do. That'd be wonderful. And you might, I will make that number 2. 1, send representatives to all the county planning groups so you hear from us. And 2, put in some sort of committee process that's just broad subject matters so that we can speak to the issues before they come here to the Board of Supervisors. We only have maybe twice a month that we get to address the Board of Supervisors for those of us who live out here in unincorporated area. Twice a month about issues that affect us. This is just a really unfortunate setup. Some months only once because there's just.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the final call. And our final caller is Paul Cole.
Sorry, I muted. The recommendations were good. Option one, a comprehensive agenda including links to relevant documents is a great improvement. By the way, this facilitates transferring agenda items to the next day or to proper time slot when needed. Doing so many people for their jobs or children, you should even the number of I suggest a limited in not just per day if you live in advance. This would cause the least number of people to be excluded from speaking. Look at the number of speakers today, about half of yesterday. But the best thing would be to stop discrimination and enforcement of the speaking rule, permit clapping between speakers, prohibit prolonged chants or clapping. Like that. You might want to limit the time spent on the website, or even limit your own speeches, like a ample for a day, really well. Only. It's interesting that only 127 people out of the county 3.3 million participated in the survey. Maybe you didn't promote it well enough. Looks like number 23 looks okay, but I hope that it needs to. The county will go further than ask people.
You, Chair Lawson Raymond, that concludes public comment on this item.
Okay, great, thank you very much. Anyone colleagues have any questions?
Just real quick, Andrew, so for the options, under item number 22, none of those are conflicting, right? We can approve all of them. Okay, so I move approval of the entire package. Do we have to split the motions up?
No, you have a motion.
All right.
Second. Good, we have a motion second. I just want to say, I really appreciate the diligence. I know that Andrew, you're always trying to make our meetings more accessible, and it's hard to know how to do that if you're not asking people what they need. It's good to ask people what they need. I just have a very small minor question. Sorry, it's not going to impact my vote, but I just didn't understand one slide. If we could go back. There's a slide on the ACS requirements. This is required use of American Community Survey data to verify whether a total of 20% more of the county population speaks English less than very well. And this is the ACS data for San Diego County is that 25% of the population speaks Spanish, with 35.6% of that population speaking English less than very well. Therefore, it requires the board of supervisors agenda to be translated into Spanish. But by my math, 35.6% of 25%, what is that, like 8% of the San Diego County population speaks English less than very well. We should still do it. That's why I said, like, let's go. Let's, like, trend roll it. I just want to make sure I'm not missing something. It looks like 8%, according to your slide of our data, of our population speaks English less than very well.
You're not missing something. There is conflicting information in the legislation. Some entities are using this calculation in different ways. What our county council has determined with a number of other county councils is that use a two-step process. So first determine if there is 20% of the population that speaks English less than very well. So we need that threshold with Spanish. And then is there 20% of that we
Wait, say that again, sorry.
We first do a calculation to determine if there's any portion of the population that speaks English, more than 20% of the population speaks English less than very well, and which language that is. So for our county, that's Spanish, at 25%.
25% of the population speaks Spanish, but it doesn't say that 25% of the population speaks Spanish and 25% of the population speaks English less than very well. It just says that the data that you presented is that 25% of the population speaks Spanish. It doesn't mean they also speak English less than very well.
Within that population, 35%.
Right. So 8% of our population, 8% of the population of San Diego County both speak Spanish and speaks English less than very well. And it doesn't speak to the AC, the requirement above.
There is legislation that is working its way through the state to clarify the exact question that you have about the calculations. We're taking a conservative approach because we have the 25% that meets that first criteria.
Okay. The math is correct. Okay. Sorry. Thank you. Okay, there's a motion on the floor in a second.
I just want to clarify with this motion for item 24 that this would approve the following groups to use teleconferencing as an eligible subsidiary body consistent with all Brown Act requirements, which would include the Committee for Persons with Disabilities, Flood Control District Advisory Commission, Health Services Advisory Board, Just Morton Truck Advisory Board, County Service Area 81, Fall River Planning and Forest Advisory Committee, Community Service Area 120, Standard Service Area 138, Valley Center Park and Recreation Advisory Committee, approving the findings for those groups as submitted. Chair Los Marino, that motion passes unanimously. All supervisors, please present.
Okay, we will now move to Wednesday, non-agenda.
Thank you, Chair Los Marino. We have 10 requests to speak on matters not listed on the agenda, 3 in person and 7 requesting to speak by phone. For those that requested to speak by phone, please dial into the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. As we use call, please record these 10 and those until restrictions to the podium. You will have 2 minutes to address the board. I'll ask you to please state your name for audio. I'd like to invite forward Andrea Eddy, Dorothea Flanagan, and Robert Burnell.
Hello, my name is Dorothea Flanagan of North County District 5. Where are we now since 1970 when Lady Bird jumped forms of pollution? The problem has worsened here. There is no enforcement or consequences for sign blight removal. Certain politicians nail their political signs high on telephone poles. Though prohibited, Public Works needs to notify them of fines and to remove them. Secondly, the 4.5-mile Gopher Canyon Road needs a regularly scheduled cleanup since it has over 17,300 vehicle count per day, and dumpers hit it regularly. Residents don't want to do it or call for cleanups all the time. Thirdly, regarding billboards, there doesn't seem to be any protected or preserved places where a billboard company isn't allowed to visually pollute beautiful scenic landscapes with mountain ridges. Look at Highway 395. They even made them higher so that it'll cover the rocks. So when you look at the beautiful range, you won't miss their billboard. Drivers have their views and right to enjoy unadulterated areas taken away from them. Lake Hodges on Del Dios Highway now has 4 billboards. I almost started crying when we went to eat at Hernandez Hideaway. Which scenic places will be next? Please preserve what we love. Thank you.
Robert Gurman, this is a follow-up to the possibility, likely possibility of deportation, ICE deportation center being built at Westonville. The first slide shows that they're definitely not being transparent. We kind of already knew this, but at least we have the AP and Westville is transparent. San Diego County Airports is not transparent. And then in this KPP, thanks to KPPS for showing that now they're going to Miramar. That's a temporary. They're going to end up at Gillespie. That's what they're building down there. Gillespie's barely surviving. And what is happening about what's happening at ICE Extension Center? Because they're hoping they're not going to stay there long, but they do stay there long. And basically, especially, and I have 3 daughters, especially for women, they're just treating them like the one Congress lady said that they treat them worse than at an animal shelter. Dude, you got to read that, and it's also on the web. And then I came across this in my search that in 2004, this was published, and I gave you a handout by El Cajon City. And they are joint powers people, or I don't know how you would say it, people with the county. And it is very, very good as far as it is accurate. And it's worse now. 40% of the aircraft at Gillespie Field are not certified to fly. They're not airworthy. So basically, Gillespie Field is turning into a scrap heap, or you would call it a boneyard. And I don't believe that's appropriate, and I really can't understand how they got the 70 acres to build anything for aviation. Thank you very much.
Next speaker, please. Andrea.
I'm Andrea Ebbing. Oh, my time's done. Sorry. So Andrea Ebbing, I mentioned a few moments ago about the absolutely horrific, brutal beating. I mean, I've never in my life been beaten by somebody like that. I mean, I just had a ruptured aneurysm. I literally survived a haymaker. My doctor said if I got to the hospital 1 moment later, no way would I have survived. I remember dying a couple of times, like on the way into the surgery, 8-hour surgery. So it was, I had 2 surgeries, and again, I mentioned that it's illegal. There's 4 reasons that you could miss a 130th 5 years in allegation of a violation of an order that Summer Steffen knows does not exist and wasn't served because she filed a motion to eliminate for it, and then issued a $100,000 warrant for me. The waste of resources that we're experiencing as a result of this woman that's driving crisis, driving the inmate in custody deaths in Las Colinas. I've had girls in there that are on 16-week wait list for treatment for Prop 36. The deputies, they're all traumatized. They're not surgeons. They can't see these people are just dying. They're dropping left and right. Their mental health, they're disabled. They're people that stole a banana and now they're in Las Colinas. I mean, oh my gosh, the stories I heard, and I was very traumatized by my experience there. There was one girl in there, she wanted to keep her baby. She had cramps and brought her to an abortion clinic 3 times. Not once, not twice. They brought her to an abortion clinic 3 times. And then they brought her to Paradise Valley that doesn't have OBGYNs. By the 5th time she was brought to a hospital, it was for a DNC. Awful. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the individuals that requested to speak by phone. We're going to hear from all callers this morning so that we get to the 10 individuals that requested to speak. We'll begin with our first caller.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors, Chair Lawson Reamer. My name is Terry Ann Skelly, and I work in public health and youth mentoring and tutoring programs. My youth mentoring and tutoring programs are to understand the ramifications of drug use in general. When I think of the reason why that is, I notice the messaging around them. Social media, of course, the presence of marijuana store. Use clear messaging around drug use and its negative consequences. To intercept drug use at the beginning and change teens' perceptions of its harmlessness, I respectfully suggest that the county could increase its enforcement efforts to eliminate illegal. This is required by the State Department of Cannabis and AB 1207, a 2023-2024 bill. An annual county code enforcement check at a minimum is important because the Department of Cannabis Control does no enforcement at all of its permittees. It's important that the county not stay behind the times and recognize now what multiple daily studies are telling us about the real cost of marijuana consumption. And code enforcement would be a very welcome addition to parents, educators, public health advocates, and others who work on behalf of our youth. Thank you for hearing my concerns this morning.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Good morning, thank you, Walter. Ms. Lawson Reamer spoke earlier to being scientifically rigorous an excellent idea. That being the case, I respectfully suggest that this board look to rigorous scientific studies showing an overall public health crisis emerging from early initiation of pot use, showing increases in use and psychosis rates among youth living within 10 minutes of cannabis businesses, showing teens from lower income neighborhoods have higher use rates, heightening concerns of wider availability worsens mental health inequities. Look to the county's new well-being report for children and teens. Related admissions were youth 12 to 17 with behavioral health issues and hospitalization, and is a leading cause of death among children in 2023. Radius Children's Hospital reports 600 youth presented for cannabis treatment last year. The county predicts a 129% increase in youth substance who readily access it when commercially available. Yes, please delve rigorously into the science to commercialization will be in our rural communities. This industry's business is to hook future generations and keep them dependent. New businesses will provide ER admissions, hospitalization, and suicide. Our children. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now bring the next call.
Good morning, supervisors. My name is Madison, and I'm here today to share some concerns, both my own and those of many county planning groups, about continued marijuana retail expansion. We need to take seriously what expanded marijuana commercialization means for today's youth and young adults. Additional marijuana licensing results in more marijuana businesses, more storefront visibility, and increased normalization of a mind-altering substance in the very communities where young people are growing up. Today's marijuana products are far more potent and heavily marketed than in the past. A growing body of research links youth marijuana use to increased risks of anxiety, depression, suicidal thinking, and even psychosis. This is especially concerning because the brain continues developing into the mid-20s. Young people are at a critical stage for learning, motivation, and long-term mental health stability. As retail density increases, prevention becomes more difficult. Families, schools, and communities are working hard to guide kids, but greater exposure leads to greater normalization and often easier access through diversion. What may be intended as economic opportunity can unintentionally increase harm, especially in communities already facing health disparities. We should be asking whether expanding marijuana retail truly supports long-term community well-being. Real equity includes protecting youth and young adults from increased exposure to substances that can negatively impact their mental health, educational outcomes, and future opportunities. Thank you for the chance to talk today.
Thank you. Now, the next topic.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors, Ann Riddle. I called in for my non-agenda public comment because of my concern about billboards out on our highways in the unincorporated area. Of particular concern are two that are for pot shops or marijuana storefronts. Is for the Cake House. It is large, it stands up and disrupts what is otherwise a beautiful vista, as the previous speaker mentioned about billboards. And it's in pastels. It's a beautiful yellow and cherry on top, and then some descriptive words. Tell me, is that attractive to children and young adults? Of course it is, and that's the purpose of it. It's nefarious, it's predatory, and that's what industries that sell addictive drugs do, and this pot shops just being another one that's a problem for our children. We know that here in the county that drug use begins before the age of 19. It's considered a pediatric onset disease. And we also know that we're not spending the prevention dollars we used to on prevention for our young people. So the last thing we need is these type of billboards staring them in the face as they drive down Del Rios with their parents from west to east or east to west. I ask ourselves, are these industries really something that bring us good health? No, they're vaped and they're smoked. People might tell you otherwise, but still, research suggests that the majority of products bought at a marijuana storefront are vaped or smoked. This is a county who has recognized thoroughly and has put in place some restrictions regarding vaping and smoking and the need for smoke-free air. And
Now, here's the next call. Next caller is Zora Fahim. And we'll come back to it.
Good morning. My name is Becky Rapp, and I'm here today to share an invitation and to highlight an important community effort that has quietly made a difference in the lives of some of San Diego's most vulnerable youth. Each year, San Pasqual Academy hosts its annual Service Day, an event that brings together volunteers and students in a shared effort to build, restore, and uplift their campus communities. Young people who have participated in this day of service have become a powerful example of young people serving young people, peers coming together out of empathy and a shared purpose. San Pasqual Academy serves foster youth, many of who have experienced instability, trauma, and in too many cases, the generational impact of substance abuse. We know that drug abuse doesn't just affect individuals. It reshapes families, disrupts childhood, and leaves lasting effects on our young people's sense of safety and opportunity. The Academy's mission emphasizes resilience, connection, and the belief that every young person deserves the opportunity to succeed despite their difficult circumstances. These are the programs that should be supported and promoted by this board. It's counterproductive for this board to support and promote the expansion of the marijuana industry into our backcountry, the same backcountry that San Pasqual Academy works tirelessly to consider the damaging harms of expanding psychoactive drugs into our community. I invite each of you to attend and participate in this year's Service Day. Come see firsthand the strength of these young people and the impact the community can have. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll hear from the final caller. Final caller is Zora Kahim. Your device might be muted. And the final call. Hearing any audio from that caller, Chair Lustberger, that concludes the request for non-attendant public communications.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. So now we move on to the first item on our agenda, which is the consent agenda. Oh, apologies. We have to first do the approval of minutes and statement of proceedings.
Approve.
Hold on, I have to say which ones they are.
For the sanitation district of March 25th, 2026.
Okay, for the sanitation district, March 25th.
Oh, that changes it.
Yeah. We have a motion and a second. Okay, thank you very much. Please vote.
Chair Lustberger, that motion passes unanimously with all supervisors who are present voting aye.
Okay, now we are on to consent. This is items 1 through 6 and sanitation number 1. These were all the after comment promotion as their routine. Anybody colleagues have any items upon which they'd like to comment or any items to pull? Vice Chairman Holtzman.
Thank you so much, just for your work in the gap analysis that determined the need for sidewalks in Smith Valley. As the board member noted, the project area is within a 76% low and moderate income census tract and has a healthy place index score of 31.22 percentile, reflecting socioeconomic and health disparities. These improvements will provide safer routes to Bancroft Elementary School, Goodland Acre Park, and Lamar County Park, while supporting walkability and active transportation for residents and businesses within the community. I drive this area quite often, and I know that there's a severe need here, so I really want to thank staff for identifying that need and making sidewalks happen in this community. And with that, I will move approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you very much. Chairperson McGree. Anything to pull? Any comments? Okay. Supervisor Anderson?
Not at this time, thank you.
Supervisor Dutton?
No, I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please give a public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lustberger. We have nine requests to speak on items on the consent agenda, 3 in person and 6 requesting to speak by phone. For those requesting to speak by phone, please dial 5-2. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. I'd like to invite forward allegedly Audra, Andrea Edding, and Michael Key. Audra, please come forward. Please begin by stating your name for the audio record. Also, when speaking, please identify which item or items on the consent agenda you are speaking about. Thank you.
over this. It's sweat or something. Anywho, number 3. Do you think 15 years is long enough to complete this project? Do you guys think we need to add more? We could give them 20 years. You know what I mean? We like to take decades to do things. Number 4, the 3 roundabouts. Heck no, you guys are totally impeding people's ability to evacuate during an emergency, but that's cool because we'll have more, take their homes and stuff. And then, it's interesting when you guys do stuff with open space, and, we see all of the human suffering. Good thing you guys care about the planet enough to say that, we don't need to worry about the people. I mean, who are we saving the planet for anyway? Right? The elites. I know they already have underground tunnels, it's fine. But how is this data, Terry? You're a data expert, you love your data. Now, it's saying that 480 metric tons per year is saved by doing this, perhaps, and that's about 90 cars off the road. How do we figure that? Are we just trusting the science? Trust the data, right? Trust us. It works, right? You guys need to reach your goal of 98,379 acres. How cool is that for butterflies and stuff? I'm so glad we're doing that, because then it makes people think that you care about human life or, whatever. Like, we're doing this so that we can save the planet for you guys. This is going to cost $74,000 a year to manage. It's good management of our money, right? Maybe you can find some homeless people to go work on those, give them a job and maybe a place to stay. They could go back out in the wilderness. You know what I mean? So we got to keep them where they're really going to be traumatized. Yeah.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Andrea Ebbing, I want to the gifts and donations. So I spend quite a bit of time on the registrar's website. I look at 460 forms, I look at donations, I track every single cent going in and out of all the summer stipends tax because of all the corruption, which is costing us millions and millions of dollars, but she's pumping millions and millions of dollars for those campaigns, I guarantee that. You can easily look it up on sdgo.com. There was something that stood out to me. I was trying to get information on the new indoor shooting range or whatever it is. I found a whole bunch of donations from the owner to Summer Steffen because it's quid pro quo, of course. And one of the interesting things I found, besides the 37,000 lines of law enforcement donations to her, which she publicly stated and vowed to the public that she would not accept law enforcement donations, but I found 37,000 lines. When you're, one thing about the fraud is that when you can go into the big numbers and you think that's where it's at. You're like, oh, I'm gonna look 5,000 to 5 million, I'm gonna find all the dirt there. But you actually find the dirt in the lower numbers in very repeated patterns. And there's some really dirty officer-involved shootings, deputy-involved shootings, police brutality, all these people are paying her, tons of defendants. But besides that, I also found an office holder or candidate called NA. They're a non-existent person, but through that person's, Nana's campaigns, we have A&P Drywall, ABC Construction Co. Inc., Intermediary Associated General Contractors of America San Diego, and Acme Safety and Supply Co. Inc. pumping quite a bit of money through Nana's campaign. So we should probably look at that. I don't know where to report it because the FPC has a list. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Lawson, Reamer, and supervisors, and happy birthday. My name is Michael King, and I'm the conservation organizer with the Sierra Club of San Diego, and I'm speaking on agenda item 6. The Sierra Club of San Diego strongly supports the proposed expansion of Iron Mountain County Reserve. An important step towards meeting the county's conservation goals and advancing the SBC's conservation program. Expanding the reserve to roughly 540 acres will protect large continuous area vulnerable habitat, including sensitive coastal sage scrub and chaparral ecosystems. This expansion will help safeguard sensitive species such as Belding's orange-throated whiptail, Langell's horned lizard, Cooper's hawks, and mule deer, all of which rely on connected landscapes to survive. This project also reflects smart regional planning. By conserving these lands within the proposed MSC framework, the county can help streamline appropriate development in less sensitive areas while ensuring long-term environmental protection. This balance between conservation and housing is critical for our region's future. So, on this Earth Day, we urge the county to move forward with this acquisition because expanding the Iron Mountain County Reserve is a meaningful investment in our quality of life, biodiversity, climate resilience, and sustainable growth. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the individuals that requested to speak by phone. I'll start with Dr. Call.
Three, extension time. A time extension for the Harmony Grove development, which is under a lawsuit. You should wait to see if it is practical to proceed. The proposed development would add a huge amount of traffic to the already limited event crowd. A fire chief testified here that he would not have approved the project. And they're concerned over the environmental impact that you...
Please clarify to which item you're speaking, or else you'll have to forfeit your time if it's not on topic. Thank you.
I said, three is the time extension. I mean, are you listening? Until we know that we will not be wasting money on these roads and drainage systems for projects that might be scaled back or not done, do not approve this.
Sir, please pause. Are you speaking to item? Apologies. Three. Okay, thank you.
SR 67 improvements promised in 2004 still not done. The SR 67 Highland Valley Road to Dye Road project would enhance safety for all, increase evacuation capacity for wildfires, and improve daily and emergency traffic flow along the 16-mile stretch of SR 67 from Lakeside to Ramona. It's badly needed. Do not reallocate money from it. I also oppose inclusion of the Rancho Santa Fe roundabouts in the 2027 Transnet Local Street Improvement Program. Roundabouts hamper emergency response and evacuation. Save your money. Do not transfer money away from important projects and review the program. That the county is making bond payments for Sandag, by the way.
Thank you. We'll hear from the next caller.
Well, so I'm going to continue where Paul left off. Thanks for interrupting him again, Sarah, the terrorist. Okay, so the county is making manage its own bond debt and ran to you for help. Clown 6, acquisition of 380 acres of open space, the Iron Mountain County Preserve. So you are taking $2 million of the unlocked reserves for a county preserve. The reserve should be for emergencies, for people, not for land. Clown. But even for land, it's ridiculously expensive. $4.9 million, $12.9 thousand per acre. The appraised value is only $4.4 million. $500,000 less. Wonder which real estate mogul will be profiting, always. Then there will be continuing costs of maintenance and management, $35,000 a year. It all adds up. Now is the time to waste money on overpriced. Now is not the time to, well, they always waste money. Now is not the time to waste money on overpriced land deals and raise the reserves for it. But that's government. It would be cheaper to build housing for these animals and move them to an existing habitat.
Thank you. Chair Lawson Reamer, that concludes public comments. Consent.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion on the floor by Vice Chair Montgomery Scott and a second from Supervisor Desmond. Please vote.
Chair Lawson Reamer, the motion passes unanimously. All supervisors be the president and voting.
Okay, thank you all very much. So I'm going to get over and introduce Mr. Joyce in the audience so we can kind of plan accordingly. So what we have remaining is we actually have item 7, which is continued from March 25th, which is the AEP item. Item 8, item and the closed session support comment. So we will get through items 7 and 8, and then after items 7 and 8, we will take a quick lunch, and then we'll come back to 9 and 10 and move to closed session. So let's move on to item 7. No, it's yours.
Okay. Well, I want to say thank you to my colleagues for considering this item. Just a few comments. State law AB 3 still defibrillators, AEDs, during any official practice or match beginning on January 1st, 2028. Well-intentioned requirement, but it had no money attached to it. I'm concerned about the smaller volunteer-run, soccer struggle to afford an AED at all. Last May, in 2025, I brought forward an item asking staff to explore options to help groups get a leg up in trying to comply with AB 310. And after reviewing the staff's report back, which is part of item 7 here, I want to propose an approach that's going to strengthen the cardiac safety across the county and help youth sports organizations obtain AEDs if they need that assistance. The staff kind of put a choose your own adventure options on here with staff stuff, which I thank you very much. So my recommendation is to create a voucher program for eligible youth sports organizations to receive a redeemable voucher for up to $1,100 per unit, which is what these are costing. And that totals up to about 300 units with the prices included. Also add weatherproof AEDs to the county parks and recreation sports facilities. There's about 8 sports facilities in the unincorporated area that do not have any AEDs located there. To put those up and have those available, and then also develop and administer an AED awareness campaign through January 2028 to help groups understand how to comply with AB 310 and how to provide training and education workshops on its use. So that's I'll make a motion after public comment. That's what I'm requesting moving forward. And this would all be, I know there's dollars, there's about $880,000 is what this is going to cost.
Okay, we'll now go to public comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Lawson Reamer. We have 11 requests to speak on this item, 5 in person and 6 requesting to speak by phone. Also note for the record, to speak on item 7 by phone, please dial in the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with the in-person speakers. As your name is called, please come forward and stand in the arrows until it is your turn to speak at the podium. Because there are 10 or more speakers on the side, you have 1 minute to address the board, and we'll ask you to begin by stating your name for the audio record. I'll call forward the first 3 individuals, allegedly Audra, Andrea Ebbing, and Enrique Christopherson. Call your name, please come forward.
people because the vaccines that have been administered have caused myocarditis, pericarditis in children. And people started just dropping dead on playing sports or just, just standing there. Nobody wants to acknowledge the cause of it. But yeah, let's implement putting these to save someone's life. How about you do a awareness campaign on the deadly genocide shots that you guys encourage people to get? It's actually really sad to know that you guys lie to people out like that and like.
Manager, I think it's a good idea to have these defibrillators on site. Anything to keep the kids safe. Anybody that's at a sports facility would be great. I'm in District 7. I mentioned I was brutally beaten almost to death in front of 40 children by Officer Anthony Warner and the 24 officers that can't respond to a non-emergency or emergency call in Linda Vista for hours somehow just showed up within seconds of like him slamming my and I looked up all their other pay for their kickbacks. They all make like $5,000 to like $70,000 in other pay. Each one of them. I have all their badge numbers. They're all getting reported in post commission office practices. But the big thing about that in District 7 at the rec center is that there's no working cameras on that rec center. And there were 4 murders in 8 months. So kids go there, and I've heard there's a lot of drug dealing, and those officers are involved. Thank you.
The next speakers coming forward, all by name, speakers in person, Maureen O'Connor and Laura Irwin. As well as Linda K. Christopherson.
Yeah.
You come forward.
Good morning, Chair, members of the board. My name is Enrique Christopherson, talking on item 7, AEDs. I represent Response Ready. We're a small, women-owned local business based in Oceanside, serving communities across San Diego County with AED and emergency preparedness solutions. I've worked in this industry for over 20 years now. I'm here today in strong support of this AED initiative and county's efforts to expand access to defibrillators for sports organizations in order to comply with AED 310. I would like to respectfully raise one consideration as option 1B, the Amazon Business Voucher Program is evaluated. AEDs are Class 3 medical devices regulated by the FDA. Not all AEDs are available through Amazon marketplaces that are FDA approved for use in the United States. This may create compliance or liability issues for purchasers and end users, and possibly even for the county.
Maureen O'Connor, and I'm proud to represent San Diego Project Heartbeat, or 25 years. To preventing sudden cardiac arrest death through access to AEDs and education. I'm here today in strong support of Supervisor Desmond's AED initiative and the item before you, which responds directly to AB 310 and the real world need of our youth. AB 310 sets an important and necessary standard, but compliance alone does not save lives. Preparedness does, and preparedness requires more than equipment. It requires training, awareness, outreach, and trusted community partnerships. That's why San Diego Project Heartbeat supports option 3, and we believe it is essential to the success of this effort. Option 3 brings together right partners. San Diego Project Heartbeat is a part of a regional coalition of organizations through the county that will help with this.
Hi, my name is Laura Irwin from Valley Center. I'm a coach of 17 years, a mother of 6 athletes, and a small business owner. I'm going to skip ahead just 1 minute. Just wanted to, along the lines of the gentleman before me, say that may I request the supervisors to consider the 1C option for distribution. Why give big box stores and the Amazon In addition to supporting small business, please note Amazon does not supply specific FRX AEDs and other ones that are all weather that would be the right choice for many youth sports programs. My family also owns a small AED business called the Medic Source. All the accessory expiration dates. If the county is supplying funds for these units, it could be a legalistic nightmare if there is no entity managing the needs of these units post-sale. If you go with a local vendor, all of the legalities shift to the vendor. It is a win-win for the county.
We're now here to the individuals that requested to speak by phone. We'll start with our first caller.
Okay, composer, and considering, what the county chose for air purifiers, for issues regarding the TJ River sewage odor for the people down there, you better opt and go for a better grade. The children deserve it of these defibrillators or whatever whatever this item is about. Sorry, like actually driving right now. I should pull over. Don't count on me. But anyways, yeah, you better get the best for the children, considering a lot of them are having heart issues, falling and collapsing on these fields, or it wasn't an issue before, but all of a sudden, 6 years ago, started becoming an issue. I wonder why. But yeah, I am hoping that you don't,
Thank you. The next caller.
Although this is an interesting item, perhaps it addresses the post-COVID increase in deaths from exercise. As Audra said, people in gyms and sports facilities, people who do a lot of work seem to be dropping all over the place suddenly, and I mean, no one really knows why, but we all know that the vax causes death, and it's not all that it was built to be. Doesn't really say what. But maybe we could install anti-vax machines in gyms and sports facilities. I prefer options 1B and 2C.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. Ann Riddle here. I'm calling in from my work site, which actually happens to be where we hold some after-school programs, at schools, where we hold after-school programs with young people. And it's been difficult to kind of discern the difference between option 1 and option 2. I would hope that there would be some sort of combination of have access, seeing it happen. It's about sudden death, no, but we're far more aware of them. It's not really a problem associated with COVID. It's not a problem associated with exercise. It's a problem that has existed.
Thank you. Chair Losner, and that concludes public comment.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors.
Okay. Done? Okay. Thank you.
I just, the speakers asking for other options. I was going to make a motion for option 1B. This is redeemable through the county's Amazon business accounts. If this voucher goes forward, that's the only place they could access it, and I would like to add with that, or any FDA approved AED options, which would actually be option 1. C. So I could change the, so I'll make a motion to, for option 1B and 1C. They're both the same. One's just saying Amazon business accounts, the other one says they can opt out for other vendors as well for these AEDs, not just limiting it to 1B, just limits it to the Amazon account. So I'd like to make a motion for, I guess, option 1B and 1C, and then option 2A. This puts AEDs at some of our park, 8 of our park facilities, and then option 3 entirely for the public awareness program and campaign for the outreach.
And sorry, say the option, the second one again.
Option 2A and option 3. There is no AED, just option 3 is the awareness campaign.
Can I get clarity? So are you intending the total cost for option 1 to be 353 plus 353? Or you're kind of trying to
Well, the total cost is $880,000 for the options. Option 1B and recommendations. It's 2 right there. Recommendation number 2. That's the total cost, $880,000. That's for 300 units.
I just want to get clarity. You said you wanted to do option 1B and 1C? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, but I guess the only part of, what I'm trying to do is not just limit the vouchers used to only Amazon's business account, but to also allow for other vendors and organizations to purchase through other FDA approved organizations as well. So it wouldn't be the total, it'd just be, they're both 1B and 1C. Yeah, I see what you're saying, they'd be doubling that cost. They're the same price. But I just want to be able to allow other than, not just limit it to Amazon's business accounts.
So can I ask some assistance perhaps from county council for us where there doesn't properly to make this motion? I'm hearing you say, keeping the total cost of the 3,353, right? 352,000, but you want to have multiple avenues through which we.
53. I've seen the 412 total one-time cost of options 1B and 1C. So page 2
Okay, apologies. That was the previous version, so
Yeah.
it was a good cost to update. Okay.
So just one of those, but yes, I don't know how we best phrase this.
Legally, from a council standpoint, the board could make that motion, allowing them to be purchased either way. What I don't know is from an operational standpoint, if the cost would remain the same if we're combining 2 different methods.
Well, what we have, the voucher limit is $1,100. So there's no, if it costs more or less, that's, well, if it costs more, that's going to be on the organization. So there is a limit of the $1,100.
Go ahead, please.
Supervisor Desmond, through this year, would it be possible to provide us some sort of dollar limit and allow for providing both options? And then we could, identify up to 100 vouchers, for example, at the $1,100, and then that we need to achieve some cost savings for the vendor option and C, we might be able to then achieve that. So if we give us a total dollar amount combining the two in a way that's most economical.
Well, I'd like to leave it at the 412, if the 412 number is in there. And then up to 300 units. Rephrase it. Just option 1B, that organizers can, or organizations provide with a voucher redeemable through the county's Amazon business accounts or any approved AED vendor. And then that keeps the cost the same. We're not doubling the cost. And this, I just want to state, there's 2 groups of priority groups that qualify for this. There's Group A and Group B. Group A is the priority group. And Group A is they have an unincorporated home field. They also have an everybody plays philosophy, a volunteer-based for Group A. So that's primarily mostly for the unincorporated area. But there are options, there's a Group B for non-unincorporated areas that they hold tryouts, they have paid coaches. There's a few they're not affiliated with a governing organization or they don't meet the criteria of Group A. So this could spread not just in the unincorporated areas, but also in the incorporated areas. But there's a total of 300 AEDs. Group A, which is in the unincorporated areas, is the priority. That's first priority. Unfortunately, 310 came with no money, and we're strapping these small volunteer organizations and teams with the cost of it.
Vice Chairman Christoph?
Thank you, Supervisor Desmond. My additional just concern here from the public was about the procurement process, I guess, or the, and you may have resolved this with adding another option, but I think this might be under 2A. I just want to make sure that our small business owners have an opportunity to be a part of this process. And this is something we just heard today. This is something that Supervisor Anderson and myself have prioritized and kind of trying to set up the county to do better, be better with small businesses. So I don't know how what we would need to do to add. Is there a competitive process in here, or was it assuming that we were going to go with a company already?
No, there's no. There's no particular companies. The only thing we have. I think of the language that I put in there, or any other FDA approved vendor. So that the FDA approved is if they're a vendor and it's FDA approved, they still get the $1,100 max per unit. So with that language, I think that covers it.
Okay, that was all. Thank you.
Supervisor Anderson?
I don't know if you caught, I was happy to second that. I'm happy to second that. There is another issue in this too. For a lot of these organizations, they do fundraising themselves. So even if the cost was more than $1,100, we're giving them the lion's share, and they can close that gap. And I don't think there's anything wrong with these leagues having some skin in the game, because this equipment needs to be maintained, and when you pay for it, even if it's a nickel, you now are an owner, you're not a customer. And I think that I don't have a problem with leagues having to chip in something in order to get there.
Does that affect your motion in any way?
I'm good with the motion. I was just adding my maker wants to make a change. I'm happy to support that too, but I wasn't insisting on it.
Okay, thank you. I guess my only question or concern is around the outreach funding. I definitely, that piece seemed not clear to me. That was totally necessary. I just, I know that we've already, county team has already identified 250 organizations as part of the stakeholder outreach. And it seems like we could probably get, do some free social media and outreach to 250 organizations. So I don't know that we need to spend a bunch of money on the outreach. The rest, I'm very supportive, but I don't like this. I don't love this outreach piece. I don't know how.
We could leave the outreach to our district offices.
That would be great. Great. We can send an informal community survey to ask if they need it.
But don't use a polling service. Don't delay.
I don't know. I'm hesitant on that only because our offices aren't the experts on AEDs and AED equipment, but I don't want to put that onus on my office. If something goes wrong or it's not used properly, and they didn't get the awareness and outreach, is so I'm hesitant to accept that as I don't want that.
I agree. I mean, I wasn't trying to accept. I wasn't trying to suggest one way or the other. I just was saying it's a bunch of money. Doesn't seem like we need to spend it. We've got a bunch of free channels and post on social. We have 250 orgs that we already are working with and can outreach to and send emails to. The rest of it, I'm totally supportive of, but I would love to save a little bit of money and not spend that on that outreach. And our district office can be helpful to the extent that they'd like to be. Is that all right?
Yeah, spend as least as you can, but make do the job right.
For clarity purposes, please through the chair, we could just understand what the budgetary amount is, if there is a cap or a total amount, certainly will be efficient how we approach that. Staff can elaborate if you'd like, but if you could please identify what you're looking at. Social has a huge presence. I'm sure Stuart Anderson's going to do a press conference and get lots of free earned media. I'm just saying.
So you can use it.
Anyway, so I think I'd throw it to you. It just didn't seem necessary. So what you let us know.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the comments and the question. If I can turn to staff in terms of what was envisioned and what you would need funding for, if there was consultant services and so on to develop collateral, that would be very beneficial.
Yeah, thanks for that question, So the intent of this public awareness campaign would be bringing on a part-time staff to be able to develop a robust marketing campaign, educational training resources, as one of the speakers highlighted, making sure that purchasing of those units also came with adequate training and resources as well. Developing an overall campaign about the awareness of this, but a more robust initiative to really focus on those organizations that are in need and underserved.
How much is the training part?
So, thank you for that question. So the training would be focused on those leagues participating, maybe range. Some are free trainings.
No, how much would it cost us?
So we would not be doing training. We would be educating the participants about resources and opportunities to participate in those trainings and the marketing campaign associated with it.
And Chair, what you're asking is what would the cost for a consultant or someone to develop the training be if we were to isolate that component?
Yeah, I'm basically saying, I think if you're trying to give away free stuff, you don't need pay a lot of marketing to give away free things. We have a lot of ways of communicating with these groups. But it does seem helpful to make sure they're using the equipment correctly. That seems like a good investment. So what would that part cost if you're just talking about like supporting groups to use the equipment correctly?
So we have built in a staff member for over a 2-year campaign. That was about $83,000 a year to actually do that over a 2-year campaign and to develop it. Currently, we don't have a staff member on our team that does this.
So maybe if we said $100,000 for that purpose, I'd be comfortable with that. That would make sense to me. And focus on like how to use the equipment, really like supporting these groups. But yes, the basic motion. No, right now it's the public education. Is that for all the public education? I'm confused. I thought you were saying that was only for the part of the training, not for the outreach.
2 components to that. One is the actual materials, awareness, branding, outreach. That's about $150,000, and then there's one staff 2-year period of time to actually implement that marketing and media campaign associated with it. So it's both of those costs are built into the overall option in 3.
So I was just saying, looking at the 82,000 piece.
That's for the temporary staff.
Yeah, that's what I was suggesting to spend money. No, we don't need to spend as much time on that. It's not a huge deal. Thought just seemed like to be frugal.
And are we actually doing the hands-on training? Because I don't think we should be.
Through the church, through the church department, we would not be conducting, county staff would not be conducting a training. We would really have resources and existing trainings that are out there, and that's what we would direct folks to. And there's a number of them.
It's basically publicizing training so people get the training. Anyway, I'm sorry to get us totally distracted. I'm just saying $232,000 to tell people about a free thing seems like a little much, but I think helping make sure they get connected to trainings where they know how to use the service, the device makes a ton of sense. So I just wanted to isolate that second component.
So just, if I can, I'm sure just to clarify, what you're saying is you support staffing the part-time person to help implement and do outreach and education on this program, but not the marketing campaign aspect of the expense.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. Supervisor, Chairperson McGarry adequately summarized my incogent thoughts. Thank you.
I'm supportive of that. Make her motion.
So the cap of 100K, is that still out there, or?
That's, I just figured, like, I don't want them to come back and ask for more because of inflation, so.
Well, do you need 2 years for this program, or could you do it in 1?
So let me also just clear as well. So initially, we're going to be set up a program. We're going to build in an application, a screening criteria that fully vets organizations. That takes resources to do. We want to make sure that we are setting this up correctly. So there's a lift associated with that. We can reduce the overall outreach. We're trying to build in 2 years to lead up to the bill and allow for adequate time to outreach folks, but we can scale it down, we can modify it as necessary, but we do need resources on the front end and then continue it out. So.
This is expensive. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Through this year, I do understand your request to expedite and how important this is. If we could have a little bit of time, given all of the variety. We can try to have at least a year to get that ball rolling and then start the program. That would be appreciated.
So where's the motion?
I'll make a very simple motion to amend your motion, not your motion, it's a friendly amendment. Instead of including the whole cost of the public awareness campaign, cap it at $100,000 and focus on the piece that's really assisting with eligibility and making sure people know how to use the device.
I think we're not in the business of telling people how to use the device.
No, it's not telling them, it's connecting them to the trainings.
Okay.
I don't want us to do any training.
No, we need to.
We're telling people where to go. Yeah.
Okay, tell them where to go get the training. Yes, the professionals that do that.
Exactly.
I'm happy to accept, staff understand all that? Okay, I'm happy to accept and the app and Joey, okay?
Yep.
And Supervisor, Grace Jones said we still have it.
Yeah, I was, definitely. I am concerned we're taking a little bit lightly, but this is something that we've been mandated to do. It is actually saving lives, so there is a lot involved, and I just want to make sure we're giving the leeway for that. We can always add more to the pot or take overage and put it somewhere else. But I don't think it's not like, hey, here's a meeting or here's a grant. Only complex to that, and having a more holistic approach. I've been hearing from Ms. Maureen O'Connor from the city project Heartbeat. There's a lot involved in that, so that's all. I'm good with the motion, but I just want to make sure that we understand. It will be hard or complex, but just work. Quite a bit of work to get out, especially if we're talking about lower-income communities, unincorporated areas. It's not, folks have a network, but they may not be used to hearing from the county in this way or dealing with the county in this way. So we have to keep those things in mind. Thank you.
Thank you to everybody. Michelle for a second.
Reamer, that motion passes unanimously. All supervisors will be present for voting on.
Guys, thank you very much. Moving on to item 8. John, did you do the second?
Yes, Chair, there is a brief staff presentation on this item.
Good morning, Chair Officer Reader and members of the board. I'm Jason Thomas, Director of the Department of Parks and Recreation. Our team is here today to present an update on the Alpine Community Park project. Today's request is associated with a legal requirement to set aside the current approvals for the Alpine Community Park project. However, before diving into the legal considerations, we'd like to start with a little bit of background on the project. I'll now turn the presentation over to Crystal Benham, who is the Chief of our Resource Management Division.
Thank you, Jason. Alpine Community Park is located in the hunt for recreational opportunities in a nearly 3-decade-long period before purchasing the proposed park property. This property is now protected as a park in perpetuity through the Park Preservation Act because the property was purchased for development of the park. The proposed park property, which is adjacent to a north-south grade road and east of Tavern Road, was acquired to develop a portion as an active park and conserve the majority of the property as open space. Active recreation is planned for 25 of the 98 acres and will connect to trails located on Wrights Field, which is a publicly accessible nature preserve owned and managed by Backcountry Land Trust. The remaining 73 acres will be managed and monitored as an open space preserve and will serve as a natural barrier between the park and Wrights Field. These 73 acres will also be protected as a natural open space preserve in perpetuity. Alpine Park was designed with the local community to serve the needs of this community. Multiple workshops, hundreds of survey responses, and discussions with stakeholder groups led to the final concept of the park. The inland and relatively remote location focuses the programming of the park on local residents. In addition, park amenities are similar to those in other communities, thereby reducing the preference for use by others outside of Alpine. DPR does not anticipate to recreate on the fields or to host small community gatherings in designated picnic areas. In December 2023, the Alpine Community Park project was approved by the County Board of Supervisors. DPR facilitated an extensive community-driven design process to shape this new park, including several public meetings, online surveys, stakeholder meetings, and community events. Amenities planned for the park were derived from this community outreach and to meet the current and future needs of the community, and to be consistent with the goals outlined in the County Parks Master Plan. Recreation amenities for this local park will be built closest to South Grade Road on land that has been previously disturbed by human use. This reduces impacts to native plants and wildlife and reduces build costs can be put toward habitat rehabilitation. The project is anticipated to be constructed in phases. Current funding will be focused on completing as much of phase 1 as possible and will be dependent on bids received from construction contractors. Phase 1 includes 10 acres of the park and potential amenities such as a dog park, playgrounds, picnic areas, a community garden, sports courts, an equestrian staging area, park office and restrooms, a volunteer pad, and parking. If funding is not sufficient for all amenities, DPR will continue to seek additional funds, including exploring grant opportunities for full build-out of phase 1 and future phases of the park, which include the remainder of site development, a multi-purpose grass area, baseball field, all-wheel area, bike skills course, fitness stations, multi-purpose building, a second restroom, and additional trails and parking. On February 27, 2019, the County Board of Supervisors approved purchase of this 98-acre parcel of land with the intent to build an active recreation area on the site. On December 6, 2023, Community Park project and certified the associated environmental analysis, which was an environmental impact report, or or EIR. On January 5th, 2024, the Cleveland National Forest Foundation and California Native Plant Society filed suit alleging the approval of the park violated the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA. On January claim regarding the EIR.
Sierra continues to be committed to bringing a local park to the community of Alpine. To do this, several steps are required. Today, we're asking the board to set aside the previous project approvals in accordance with the court's current order. Next, EPR will update the environmental analysis as directed by the court. This specifically involves updated analysis related to the Western State Code, habitat, wildfire, and traffic. Because the legal challenge was specific to public disclosure under CEQA related to these issue areas, we do not anticipate changing the overall project design as part of this update. As part of the revision process, the updated analysis will be circulated for a new public review period to allow the public to weigh in on the revised analysis. Additionally, staff will review all comments received during the public review period and prepare a response to comments to demonstrate to the public how all comments were incorporated and addressed. Once the ER has been revised, the document will come back to the board for certification along with all other project approvals. We currently anticipate that the project will come back to the board in fiscal year 26-27. We heard from stakeholders during the initial approval of the project and certification of the EIR that they wanted additional time to review the proposed final EIR and response to comments prior to board consideration. To account for that input, we will be posting the EIR to the County Parks website 30 days ahead of board consideration and notifying interested stakeholders to ensure sufficient time to review. If the board approves the project at that time, construction can begin and is anticipated to take approximately 2 years to complete. We will continue public outreach throughout the entirety of this process so that interested stakeholders and community members are informed, including providing updates at public meetings such as the Community Planning Group. Today's request is for the board to adopt a resolution to set aside the Board of Supervisors' December 2023 certification of the Alpine Community Park Project Environmental Impact Report and rescind all project approvals to comply with the court's ruling. This concludes the staff's presentation, and we are available to answer any questions you have.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go ahead and hear from the community.
Thank you, Chair Lawson Reamer. We have 13 requests to speak on this item, 3 in person and 2 requesting to speak by phone. Also note for the record that we received 40 e-comments, 36 in favor and 3 in opposition. Any individuals that request to speak on item 8 by phone, please have them in the conference line using the instructions that were provided to you. We'll begin with our in-person speakers. So, 1 minute to address the board. Since there's kind of more speakers on this item last week, begin by stating your name for the audio. I do by for Patrick Williams, Leslie Audra, and Andrea Betty. But caution, please come forward.
Hi, I'm Patrick Williams. Thank you. I learned about the planned park complex at a board meeting on Backcountry Land Trust, which I was a member of. I stated opposition to the park because it's on an expansive park on 25 acres, the most accessible and spectacular land of the Wrightsville area. I was told that this park was a finished, concluded deal, a done deal, and it couldn't be reversed. The CEQA process. It's a place where families have gathered for decades to do photos for graduations and weddings, picnic, and walk. I was told that if more of us had attended the several county meetings, a different park might have been proposed. But a large majority favored passive use park.
Next speaker, please.
Wonder why he was told that. Who knows? Seems like you guys get yourself into a lot of legal trouble. Doesn't seem like county council's doing a very good job keeping you guys out of it when you're doing things. But we have to have and go through the process. The CEQA stuff and the EIRs are a good way to delay projects. They're only supposed to take 2 years. That will be implemented in 15. You know, just make people wait. But you seem to be doing things that are putting people in danger, especially when you're not, you know, trying to mitigate or make sure you're not putting people in a wildfire danger zone. So it looks like some other items that we have on the agenda today are in the same.
You will now hear from the individuals that request.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. My name is Courtney Norton, and I'm a lifelong resident of Alpine and board member of Preserve Alpine's Heritage. I support the request to rescind the certification of the EIR for the proposed Alpine Park. I urge the county to reconsider other locations within the village center for active sports amenities within the proposed park. There are many locations throughout the village to update what Alpine already has to offer for parks. The scope of this location is just far overreaching. Based on the court's ruling, truly, how will the environmental impact be mitigated? There are species on the county-owned property that just can't be picked up and moved or disturb the adjacent lands that they thrive on without the anticipation of their extinction on the land. I encourage upgrades to the passive park that already exists at this location. It is a park already, and our community enjoys it for what it is. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
To the drawing board on the scope of this project. Impacts on the Western Spacefoot, Halifax, and Keno checkered butterfly can be completely avoided if the entire site was turned into an open space area. As the county noted, the county has been looking for a site for active amenities for over 30 years. Ironically, in the 1990s, the county, including DPR, is on record highlighting the rare and sensitive habitat and species at this exact site. Changed. They are even more in peril. While the county did engage the community, the county has misrepresented the community's desire. The community has overwhelmingly not supported the active park amenities the county is forcing in this project scope. There is no safe access for youth of our community to access this site. The county should locate active amenities in the village to reduce safe access issues and avoid CEQA violations. Thank you for being stewards of our resources and happy.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Hi, my name is Angie Wooder, and I support the Alpine Community Park being built. I've been a resident and a homeowner for 26 years. I have 2 children that attended all both elementary, Joe McLean, and both high schools. And I always felt cheated that there were no nice community parks in Alpine to play at. We always had to travel down the hill and go to another park, you know. And also, we had to do the same thing because there were no high schools there. Anyways, my children are grown, and I now have grandchildren, and I would love to have a park for them to play in. And that's where I'd like to see my tax dollars being spent on. Thank you very much. And again, I support the Alpine Community Park being built. Thank you for your time.
This is Peggy Walker. I find that this park faces legal challenges because of environmental abuse of the project threatens local habitat and the ecosystems. This is unfortunate for park development, but it brings to question whether other projects with potential for threatening local habitats and ecosystems are being held to the same rigorous environmental compliance requirements. Many specifically questioned if this park did not. The current marijuana EIR plan brought forth considerable concerns over environmental threats, ranging from water depletion and runoff issues to
support setting aside the EIR certification and rescinding approvals for the Alpine Community Park project. The draft EIR does not comply with CEQA. It lacks sufficient analysis, relies on waste mitigation, and prevents informed decision making. As an environmental studies policy student at UCSD, I found the report legally inadequate and aligned with community concerns, and I read the EIR report. I grew up near Rice Field, and despite years of opposition, this project ignored key issues. Unsafe access, there is no walkable or bikeable route, reliance on driving, and paid parking that will impact nearby neighborhoods and limit equitable access. The EIR also fails to address major impacts. Park-sensitive species, including the endangered queen checker spot butterfly, inadequate wildfire analysis in a high-risk area, flawed biological data, and over-reliance on generalized assumptions like relocating species. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next caller.
All above. So there are no county-owned parks in Alpine. Yeah! I mean that's shocking. Why is park ranger necessary? So you can control land in every community? You bought the 98 acres of land for this park in 2019. In fact, it is already being used by the residents of parkland. So, places like this should count in what you look at as parks. And the fact that so many sequel problems, there's lots of land nearby. It should be easy to develop into a park and somewhere else. Pursuing a park here, again, is a big waste of money. And if I were on the Alpine Community Planning Group and not informed about this, it's important.
Thank you. Now here for the next caller.
Good afternoon, County Board of Supervisors. My name is Travis Lyon, and as a school board member, the chair of the planning group, and a member of several local service organizations, and most importantly, the father of 3 kids, I fully support the Alpine Community Park. I trust you know how important parklands are for communities. I trust you reviewed the CENA that outlines how underserved Alpine is, and I trust you recognize that staff and stakeholders exhausted the search for alternative sites. Finally, I trust that you'll not let another generation of kids in Alpine grow up without adequate parkland. I really appreciate you guys taking this action to continue to move this project forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll hear from your final call.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathleen Lippert. Thank you for letting me speak. California and its call tried to powering housing development remains to uncovered cultural resources. That is no different than what is going on here. This is ironic when you consider that the tolerance for ignoring CEQA seems to have begun with the state. Counties and cities simply bring in that would allow them to ignore any environmental impacts that were discovered through analysis. One of the things that is never mentioned, so is the unincorporated communities that were had forced upon them, whether it was battery energy storage facilities or solar or turbines, wind turbines. They ignore the fact that we have raptors
the smallest of which Kestrel.
Thank you, Chair Losner, with that.
Okay, thank you. There's a motion on the floor by Supervisor Anderson. Supervisor, this is your district. Do you have anything you'd like to say?
I just quickly want to thank staff. Valley knows we've been working on this for 30 years. This park was promised to my children by my predecessor, and here we are yet today, still trying to build it. We have 0 parks. Anybody who says that they live there their lifetime, they're lying. There's no parks, and and by the way, if it were true that the community doesn't want the park, then explain how I won the election. Because I ran on improving parks. So with that, y'all voted for it before, and I'm grateful for it. This has been a long, hard, arduous road, but it means an awful lot to my community. The people opposing it live in a gated community across the street.
What's this one?
Of this park. They're not people are going to be using it. It's all the other families that will be using it. And they were upset that there was picnic areas. At one time, staff did speak to this, they talked about putting a sidewalk in. And that community didn't want people walking by. So they killed the sidewalk. Now we have parking spaces because you gotta get there somehow. But it's a game changer for everybody that lives in an apartment. And there's a lot of people that live in apartments that would like to have. By the way, there's a community garden. And staff put together an incredible AI drone that drives through and gives you a bird's eye view of everything they're building. And if you're more interested, I'm sure they can get it to you. But it's absolutely fantastic. I don't care for every element, but I understand there's somebody in the community who does like that element. And this park goes way out its way to make sure that there's something for everybody at that park. And while, piecemeal about what we like, what we don't like, it is an incredible gift to our community that we've waited so long for. So thank you for your continued support. And I talked an awful lot, but it's a pretty special place.
Great. So we have a motion on the floor in a second. So thank you both of you. Happy to support. I did actually look pretty carefully at the diagrams and what they're building, and I thought it sounded fabulous. It looks great. So thank you for the team for all the work. Continue to try to bring recreation and open space to folks throughout San Diego County. It's really important. With that, let's vote. Okay, fantastic. So it is 12:25. We'll be back here at 1:15.
Probably 1:30.
What's that?
Said probably 1:30.